everyone, and welcome to another episode of Wild Beyond the Witchlight here on Dork Tales. Specifically, tonight is the How to Run Chapter 3 episode, where we take a look at Thither. And I'm just going to be so glad to not have to say Thither anymore, because it just makes me feel like I bit my tongue. And where we're going to talk about Thither, how we ran it, what we would have done differently if we were going to run it again, how the players liked it, and answer questions that you left for us. I'm your Dungeon Master, Kelly. I use he and him as my pronouns. I'm very excited to be here tonight because I get to wear normal clothes, and so do y'all. And Robin is significantly less purple, and Christa is...
A little less pale, not by much.
A little less hairy,
I shaved.
too.
Yeah.
You shaved.
I don't know. Arguable. I'm pretty close.
Yeah, that's fair.
You just move the hair from here to up there.
Exactly. Yes. I
You're
just
all
added
adorable.
bangs.
So that's me. We have some brief announcements at the beginning of the game, but I wanted to say before I pass it over to the introductions, folks, thank you so much for all of the positive feedback, because out of all of the things we do, our how-to videos get the most thank yous. And we actually get a lot of thank yous on other videos that say like, oh, I wasn't sure how to run this module until I saw you. And that's really cool. That really means a lot to us. And I know that I personally gain a lot of satisfaction from that. And it really keeps me going when I'm exhausted and like maybe don't want to, do anything. I just want to sleep because it is an exhausting year. But thank you so much for everything that you all do. And without further ado, let's go introduce ourselves. Caitlan will be along shortly. She just had a day shift, and she will be joining us in about 50 minutes after she gets home from work. But in the meanwhile, I'm going to pass this over to Christine and drink some of my Starlight Coke Zero, which is the weirdest thing.
I love it so much.
The normal or the zero? Because the zero is so much better than the normal one, but it's still like I'm never sure if I like it or hate it.
It's the weirdest sweet-sea taste.
It tastes like space.
Okay, you know that?
Oh, it doesn't.
No, you know that.
Weird.
It's that clip of the raccoon trying to wash his cotton candy in water. That's what it tastes like.
It tastes like a raccoon. You're right.
Yeah. Delicious garbage.
Yeah. Which, just before I get into my introduction, thank you everybody who's been asking if I'm feeling better. I went and had Cairo after work today, so I got my neck cracked back into place. I'm on a lot of ibuprofen right now, but I think it's better. I can't quite tell, but there was a spot that I could press where it hurt, and I could feel bone. It was like knobby, and that knob's not there anymore. So it's obviously back in line.
Your spine is aligned.
So hopefully that means that I will not wake up with a headache again tomorrow, which would be amazing. But I also have RMT scheduled, so that should deal with the last of it, hopefully.
That should be good.
But otherwise, for those of you who are new here, I am Christine, and on this stream in particular, I play Gwendolwynne Shafra. You can call her Win, though. She is our human monk.
Nice. All right. Let's pass it over to Christa.
Hello, hi. I'm Christa. I'm Jahista FX in the chat, whatever. I don't have any particular announcements, but y'all are awesome, both on screen and off. So, hooray for a wonderful, awesome community. And thank you for all the love on the TikToks that we've been doing. They've been a lot of fun. They've been a lot of, I guess that is something I can announce. We're almost at 150 followers, which is pretty rad in like 2.5 weeks. So yes. I think we're doing pretty well.
Christa is our TikTok guru.
Yeah, I'm trying.
She is the Dork Tales TikTok.
Christa has leapt in with both feet on TikTok. Like the day we did Call of the Netherdeep Session 0, we went over to Robin's and filmed about 2.5 hours straight of TikTok footage. Yeah. And
I'm definitely gonna release some of the bloopers.
Nice.
Yes.
I feel like at some point, Christa, we need to find time where you can come over and I can get dressed up and you can help me do this, because I feel like Win is made for TikTok.
Oh, I have audios saved for Win. Don't you worry.
Also, quick shout out in the chat right there to Dazed Apricot, who is watching right now, one of our TikToker friends, who is going to be joining us for a charity stream later this week. You should definitely tune in. Christa's running 2 episodes of Lasers and Feelings because I made a boo boo on the schedule.
It doesn't matter why it's messed up. We're doing 2.
Do I have to be British in one of them?
You don't have to be, no. You can be whatever you want to be.
Do I have to be British, Christa?
Yes, you have to be British.
Oh my. All right. And then finally, last but not least, Robin, what's up?
Hi, again, I feel like you guys don't like me or something. I feel like, I have like all this space.
You just wanted leg room.
I know, like,
For those of you watching on the podcast, Robin's down at the bottom of the frame by
just
herself.
like have room to like leg room. First we got rid of Hayden and Luthienne is gonna show up.
Oh man, it took
I
forever to get rid of that Hayden. Just kidding. I'm kidding.
I wanted all those spotlight down here.
Exactly.
You're just slowly knocking them off. Like Caitlan wasn't at work. She got hit by Truck Coon and is now in an isekai.
But yes, hello everyone, I'm Robin. I use she, her, or they, them pronouns. And yeah, I guess the announcement, I'm just super, like, we're doing a how to run this chapter, which I'm super kind of happy we're doing it this week, because I'm like super hyped for tomorrow's Netherdeep to put on my makeup and costume for that. So I'm excited for that.
I am going to talk very briefly about Netherdeep in non-spoilery terms. So folks, to know what we're doing today, what we are doing is we're going to be talking about chapter 3, and we are going to be talking about how we ran it, how we wish we would have ran it. I already went through the spiel before, but this is your official warning about spoilers. There are obviously going to be spoilers for Wild Beyond the Witchlight, chapter 3 at least, and every preceding chapter. Now obviously I'm not going to spoil anything beyond chapter 3 because I have 3 of my players, soon to be 4 of them, right here. So if you are a player in Wild Beyond the Witchlight, consider what you're doing here and don't spoil yourself. That being said, I've said this in previous how-to book or how-to chapters, there are like 3 secrets in this entire book that your players, or that any player can know, that will spoil anything. The rest of them are just like, oh, okay, cool. Like, it's like just a little thing. Like, it's not, there are only like 3 secrets in the book. Maybe less, maybe more. Maybe I'm picking 3 as an arbitrary number because there's only 1. But there are very, very few. So honestly, this module can be ran by anybody or anything. And then I guess, do we have announcements? I do have like 3 quick announcements that I'd like to get out before we start. Is that okay? Everybody's cool with that? Number 1, thank you everybody for signing up for the Patreon. We are at 57 patrons as of this morning, which I have to reach out to a couple of you to find out what you want as your Patreon name over in our credit section. Which I will be doing that tomorrow. Thank you so much. As the channel continues to grow, we continue to be able to do more and more cool things. For example, at 50 patrons, I promised that we would be announcing a special new project, and I'm going to just state it right now. That this has been mentioned in a couple of other streams, but we are running a brand new podcast. It is going to be temporarily, it's called Dork Pod because it's just easier to remember that way, and it is going to be a self-contained, hopefully humorous, definitely lewd, I don't even have to ask about that one, lewdish, kind of fun fantasy romp through our homebrew setting that is going to be recorded in person on all of my fancy mic equipment, on a table that people will be sitting around. We'll actually be in the same place. And so all of you podcast listeners will be able to get like primo audio, and anybody on the Patreon is going to have access to that right away. And then we're going to release it later over YouTube and podcast once we have a little bit in the can, basically. Like, so Patreon supporters will be getting like advanced access, but we're never going to have any stuff that is like completely paywalled except for the behind the scenes podcast that we already do. And that's going to be fantastic. And I also wanted to say that as a promise, once we hit 75 patrons, there is a special summer project that we're intending to do. So if you manage to hit the 75 patron mark by May, then we can announce that for probably June or July, right, Christa? Yeah, and that's something pretty fantastic. But yeah, so just saying, Patreon's fantastic, and it's how we pay the bills around here. Other things that are important is that I hear that Hayden's rocking what they are doing that we're not allowed to know or talk about for the most part, which is good to know. I miss them
They look
very
like they're
much.
having fun attending cons.
Yeah, they're actually traveling around to cons again, and that was going
Working
to be
their hand off, signing things.
yeah, but not shaking hands.
Yes.
You can't shake hands.
Don't touch those germ-infested con-goers.
It's true. Then the last thing that I remember off the top of my head is that tomorrow is the first episode of Call of the Netherdeep. So if you like what we're doing here on Wild Beyond the Witchlight, come see what we're going to do when we're over in Critical Role Land, running their module that was written by Matthew Mercer, who I hear ran our episode 0. Or his doppelganger did, and it's going to be a fantastic time. Episode 0 is going to be great. We actually have 3 of the cast members here, so what am I saying? I can't speak. Robin, Christa, and Caitlan are all in that game, as well as our friend Chris Blog. So
I was gonna say 3. I'm not in that.
You're not in
No,
that.
Win is arriving. Didn't you know she's
Wynn's just showing up in Critical Role Land. Oh,
Yeah,
well, I mean,
Wynn
I'm
just
sure she could
somehow
manage to do
falls
that
through
somehow.
a portal and she's suddenly an examiner.
But she doesn't
It's
even
not
know
sure
how.
is
She just woke
here.
up that one day.
This is now Wynn's story. She's tripping over stuff, and it's not very boring. Anyway,
All right, somebody write that song.
You didn't go with
for me.
Gwendolwynne is here.
Gwendolwynne is here. Yeah,
Here.
and
She's
then,
gonna punch you.
oh god, I could make so many rhymes with bucket.
Right, I know, right? Anyway, moving forward.
And then, sorry, I have the stealth final announcement is that this week we are running a ton of charity events for WAVA, which is a Vancouver-based rape crisis center. And this is a fantastic cause that some of our friends over at Tabletop Titties help organize. Our friend Shaw over there actually works for WAVA and does fantastic stuff for them. And they asked us to do charity events. So we'd love it if we could get you out to those. We already did one on Sunday, which was Who Done It, a game that was ran by our friend Bunny Hearted, and included me and some other people in a D&D Clue game. The finale to that two-parter is going to be Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific on Twitch, and then will be uploaded probably the next day onto YouTube. And then we also have 3 other games. We have 2 games of Lasers and Feelings ran by Christa, which is a one-page role-playing game that's kind of goofy. Kind of fun.
It's going to be goofy, fun games. It's going to be space pirates. I'm very excited. It's going to be heists with space pirates.
And
but the game itself is literally like the rules of the game are half a page, and then the other half is like how to GM a story of it. It's a great game.
Nice.
There's one stat.
I need
Go
to
check it out.
Nice. And then on Saturday, I am going to be running an episode of Animal Adventures, which is a Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition kind of rule book, core book. It's just a different version of D&D, but where you're all dogs or cats, but like you're awakened dogs and cats, so you have like powers and stuff. You're basically just a character, but a dog.
It's basically an expanded race book.
Yeah.
Where like dogs are separated out into like big, small, medium.
Yeah, and they have like a separate domain, right, as well.
Yeah, they have a separate. The good mother is the good girl. Who's a good girl, but she's a god. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I hope you come and check that out. Lasers and Feelings and Animal Adventures are going to be Thursday, Friday, Saturday at 7 p.m. Pacific, and will be on YouTube as well. I don't know how the prizes are going to work for YouTube, and Affecting the Story, obviously live, will not be able to be done with donations, but you can still watch them, and they'll be a lot of fun.
And if you want to donate, how long will our Tiltify link be active?
I actually don't know. It's going to be active for the next month at least.
Okay, so yeah, if they watch it and you like the story and you want to, not retroactively.
Donate to the cause?
Yeah, donate to the cause, would be great. That would be awesome if you liked what we did and we're like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, it's a great cause. So
it is it is a fantastic cause. And I'm just checking real quick. I think it's good for the year maybe. But quick reminder that this is an official charity. So if you are looking for some tax deductions, like tax deductible charities are something that are really useful. So if you need a little personal reason to push you over the edge there between donating and not, I would remind you that, Streaming for Survivors is I believe, a charity receipt you'll get for that. And also when we do Extra Life, that is also a tax-deductible charity. So, bing, we'll help kids.
Yeah, you have to wait for it to come from the BC Children's Hospital, but yeah.
It takes a while.
Yeah,
it comes out in February.
Yeah.
Also, don't you get a bunch of free PDFs if you donate $15 or more to Wava?
You get entered to win stuff.
There's a bunch of entries
I'm not sure when the draw is for YouTube viewers, though.
No,
like
that's
if they'll miss it, but like.
I just think there's like codes for free things.
Yeah, you get bonuses for you get codes for free stuff in D&D Idle Heroes.
Yeah.
But also there's a bunch of video games you can win if you are on the stream with us. Like I really, really want to win some of them, but I can't because it's my channel. Yeah, it's sad. Some of these games are really good, like PlayStation 4 games, Xbox games, things like that people have donated. And it's fantastic.
Nice.
Like, it's really good. I'm pretty sure that you can imagine never mind. Too many games that I want to play on stream. Anyway, folks, without further ado, though, thank you so much. Please join us for those events, and let's drop into to How to Run Chapter 3. Sound good?
Yeah.
All right, so with Chapter 3, we went from hither to thither, where we kind of abandoned the kind of swampy, boggy atmosphere for like the forest fairy tale. And when we were running through that, there were a number of things that I did alter and update. For example, I drew, what was his name? The big spider. Fate Spinner. Tail Spinner? Tail Spinner. So I brought him in there from Domains of Delight because I wanted something else, and I wanted to use that photo as one of my thumbnails. So I'm like, damn it, there's going to be a big spider, and I was hoping that you guys would get all like freaked out and then be like, oh, he's actually kind of nice, you know?
Yarn Spinner.
Yarn Spinner, thank you.
Yeah, I got mine.
And then Wynn was just all like, oh, you're telling stories, huh?
Now, there were some things in this chapter that were a little weird, and that were things that kind of I did a bit differently, and that I kind of wish I could have done again. But let's go through some of the questions that people have asked us. So right here, let's see. So Kiyama asks, what was your favorite moment? What was the funniest moment for you? Like, what do you think? What was your favorite part of this chapter? Or the funniest in particular? Anybody?
I loved playing old Isaac.
That was great.
Yeah. I know it wasn't really like it was. I mean, it was part of the module, obviously, but it was. Oh my god! It tickled me just right.
You just like doing this voice.
I do. I kind of want to play an old man.
I kind of want to do this voice too.
It's so fun. We should just do old people.
Oh, just old people game.
Oh my gosh, a retired adventurers party? They're all just old seniors. No, we're gonna go get that.
No country for old adventurers. Gotcha.
Ah, yes.
I'll do this for Extra Life.
Extra Life.
Oh,
yes.
please, I want to
Everybody
be in that old game.
And
you'll have to
Extra Life
audition
game,
your old... Yeah.
I have, oh god, what's it? Liquid collodion that gives you the scars.
Yes.
Okay.
I could be that
Liquid
old
latex
scar
up there.
with it up. All that.
Okay,
Oh,
no
gotcha.
country or
Adventures.
old. Okay, what else? What else did you enjoy? What else spoke to you? What was important of this one?
The Julia Child mushroom. I forget what their actual name was, but they're the Julia Child mushroom that was incredibly sexual. Damn money.
It didn't have a name, actually.
It was
Did
an
it
unpacking
not?
about butter bath, right? We had to convince
Yes.
him to get
Did I give it a
not
name?
fun way.
Did I give it
Okay.
a
I think
name?
it did. I can't remember.
What?
That was okay. So you really liked.
You gave
Hello,
it a name.
I'm being washed.
And your
Yeah.
song, the song.
Oh yeah, so Garrett. So if you're running that game, they say so when you're looking at this campestry. So what happens is there's this mushroom person, and it's the buttered campestry random encounter. So if you roll a 2 on the random encounter table, you go up to the characters come across a campfire in the forest. A cauldron of water bubbles over flames, and a frying pan that holds melted butter rests atop a nearby rock. A lone campestry sings merrily as it dips its cap in the butter and rubs it on its skin. You know, yeah, it's a goblin has tricked this mushroom person into basting itself.
Which I scared the goblin to not eat it.
You did. But they say that it's singing a song, so I thought, I could have just gone like, which would have been pretty funny. So I instead wrote a song because I didn't have better things to do that day apparently, and it was butter butter on my skin, never another smooth as it, churned from cow's udders yesterday. This will make glow this campestry. Butter butter smooth as silk, made from a jersey's milk, feels like it might be a sin every time I rub it in. So everybody, please steal that for your games and tell me how it goes. I will, if you guys ask on the Patreon, I will do a recording of that and we'll release it publicly.
I will not edit that.
In the Julia Child's voice. Butter butter on my skin.
No, Christa, we'll need a TikTok of that. What are you talking about?
I will hand my phone over. I will have no
Christa,
part in this.
Can we do a TikTok where you get a picture of a mushroom and just do my mouth and eyes like the old like?
Okay, so there is a filter of that.
Wow.
Where you just put the eyes and mouth on a thing.
Yeah,
but I won't be part of it. You guys can figure it out.
I'll give you $1.
No, you know what you have to do, Kelly,
Yes.
is get a mushroom and a bit of butter, and you need to do it while singing that, and just that's the
No, because then they'll see
video.
how gross the kitchen is.
You can do it elsewhere.
I'll do it in the woods. I'll take a frying pan out there.
My kitchen's pretty okay. It has a nice blue background. You could use my kitchen.
I might. Okay, so what else did you guys like?
Trying to think of like all the things that happened. There's just too much each episode. Basically anything I did with Wynn I enjoyed.
Okay.
Because she's just silly all the time. It's great. But I really, really enjoyed Will of the Feywild reacting to people straight up saying he's an Ani.
Yeah, Noni. Yeah.
And being like, shh.
Okay, so and that's the thing, is that Will's whole bit is that the kids don't know, and so there are two characters in this chapter who have had their alignments inverted. And there are two characters in this chapter where if you cure them, they go back to being evil immediately. Will is one of them, and the other one is Chucklehead.
Yeah.
And that Chucklehead doesn't make any sense because literally part of his brain is being eaten away. I feel like that wouldn't fix as quick.
Well, I feel like if you've actually learned a lesson through it and like how you are instead, you couldn't, just being healed wouldn't automatically force you to think differently.
So what I think is really interesting though is if you do cure Will of the Feywild, he literally he loses his mind at you. Like he doesn't just like attack you. Hold on, how does it work?
I didn't even realize I thought he was on purpose.
Yeah.
So no, he got
idea.
angeled. He got angeled.
Oh, yeah, zero. There was not. I didn't get any of that.
Yeah,
His
same.
real name is Mugen, and he used to work for Scabbeth the Nightshade as a kidnapper of children until the Hag's sisters placed a curse on him that warmed his heart, changing his alignment. So her sisters swapped his alignment.
Oh.
So
See, I knew he used to work for Scabatha, but then I thought he just had a change of heart. Didn't realize it was a curse that did it.
Yeah.
If the Oni is affected by a spell that ends a curse, it regains its evil alignment and attacks whoever is responsible for lifting the curse, shouting, "How could you?" And it fights to the death.
Oh my gosh.
That is heartbreaking for me.
That is so terrible. Well, that's why I really wanted to heal Chucklehead. Like Sassy had lesser restoration or something, and you describe as a worm that's eating his brain, and it's like I want to cure him really badly. Like I can do something here, but being told that he's gonna be going back to being evil, it's like one of those things. Like I think that's my to borrow a phrase from NADPOD, that's my thorn of this chapter.
Your thorn?
Not being allowed to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's just it's a kind of a unique position where it's like you want to cure someone, but the curing is going to make it worse, which is kind of an interesting thing.
So I'm going to ask you real quick. So someone asked what your favorite random encounter is. Now I'm going to list what the random encounters are. And yes, Caitlan is missing. She'll be here in a minute. Okay, so the random encounters were the Blink Dog Funeral, the Buttered Campestry, the Centaur that was like, "You're doomed," the Doomed Dryad, which I don't think we actually did that one.
That's not sounding
Oh, yes, we
familiar.
did. So you, I think the Dryad asked you to go and hurt somebody. Oh no, actually we skipped that one. So that's the only way to do. Grandfather Tree, which is the tree that had all the pixies and the red caps.
Right.
The Jabberwock's Trail, the Owl and the Chariot, or the Owl Bear and the Chariot, I should say, and the Pixies, which we didn't actually get to. We missed that one, which is unfortunate. I really wish. So it was 3 pixies sitting around a table, sipping tea and nibbling cakes, and talking about a doorstop that they found and trying to figure out what it was made of. Or like what it was made for, I should say. One of them thinks it's an exercise bench for mice. One of them thinks it's a slice of cake made for a tree ant. And one of them is convinced it's a troll's toothpick.
Amazing.
So
That's very cute.
Adorable.
I think that's super adorable.
Well, and I think this is like, I think we kind of talked about this, is like, we're on a time frame, right? Like we're trying to get through certain chapters at a certain speed because it's performance and that kind of thing. Whereas, and so we've obviously like missed some, you know, we skip a few things. But if you're doing this at home, like, yeah, absolutely take your time and go through all of them because those all sound amazing.
So the only one I would suggest that you potentially skip, honestly, is that there are 2 different tree ones right before you go to Will of the Feywild and his treehouse. So there's there's Little Oak, which is the thing that Will lives in. Then there's the Grandfather Tree, which is where the pixies are being attacked by the red caps. And then there's the Doomed Dryad, where a dryad and 7 awakened shrubs emerge from the undergrowth and kind of act as like bandits. And they're like, hey, you gotta go. They think that you're with Will of the Feywild and they want to attack you. That's 3 tree things in a row that your characters or your players might be like, there's a lot of tree crap here. So if you think that might be a little too repetitive, I would cut one, and I think that's why I picked not to do the Doomed Dryad. I think I legitimately forgot about the pixies around the table. I think I think I was going to do that after the I think I was going to do that on the way from the Unicorn to Loomlurch, and I forgot between sessions that I still had one that I wanted to do. How do you all feel that you didn't find the Unicorn's mate? Because you were supposed to look for him inside of Loomlurch, theoretically.
I thought he was dead and gone.
Nope.
I fully missed that.
Oh, did you? Okay.
I thought he was in Yon. I thought we were going to find him in Yon. I did not get that we were supposed to go find him in Loomlurch.
I think I missed that as well.
So Skabatha flies around on a wooden rocking horse. That is a transmogrified Elidor. I think his name is Elidor, I'm pretty sure. So
I don't remember that being mentioned.
I think there was also, so I definitely... I think there might have been something that we were gonna go looking for him, but I think you brought up something regarding his horn about how there's something that breaks the story that was a bit of a
I did
spoiler.
tell you something off camera. Yes, I did.
Yes, off camera. Yeah. So I think that in my brain was like, oh, so we need to just write him off then.
So
yeah, I think we also found letters between the sisters, which specifically stated you needed to use the horn to free.
So this is
the Billina.
Yeah. Now I'm going to put this out there, and somebody correct me, please, if I am reading this incorrectly. There is a problem with the module that I see right now, and what that is that you need the unicorn horn. You only get one of them. It is Elidor's horn. It's not going to be Elidor. It's going to be like Ella 4 or something like that, and I've been doing it wrong the whole time. But so you go and are looking for the unicorn's missing mate. Just checking. Eladon. That's why. It was almost. I just need to complete the stroke. So Eladon is this flying rocking horse with a divot in his forehead, as you may be able to see. And you find him. The rocking horse attacks you because it's like unaligned. It's just a construct at that point. And you may return his horn, which fuses back with his head, and he becomes a unicorn again. But you need a unicorn horn to break the spell in the future chapter, and that's revealed in this chapter. You need that.
Well, but why can't, like, Golden Eyes just said this as well, and this was my original thought of why can't you just bring Eladon?
I guess it's just he has to become an NPC to the party at that point.
So here's what it is. So magically transforms into Eladon, who appears at full health. Eladon is happy to repay the characters for their heroism, but is equally eager to return to his mate, Lamorna. Blah, 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 blah. Convincing him to join the party requires a charisma check, not that difficult of one, to be honest. Whether he stays with the party or not, Eladon intends to honor the rule of reciprocity and offers to use his magic to aid the characters in the following ways before parting. He can use Healing Touch to treat characters' wounds. Once a day, he can teleport himself and up to 3 willing party members to any location in thither. That is the specific right there, because he cannot cross the barrier without a guide, like everybody else. So he's stuck in thither, so he can't just be like a summon who shows up at the final chapter.
Okay, we can't just be like, snap, Eladon!
Yeah, so I thought that maybe that would be the way it is, but it's not not the way it is. So what I might do is I might move him to like the last chapter and say he was actually there. Or something like that, just so that story has a little bit of resolution, because I know that we all want it, I think. So
well, and the kicker is, I saw on the map there was a horse, and I was like, that might be the unicorn. I'm not gonna see that. Continue on.
See, I don't feel bad at all, because you know what? Wynn wouldn't have noticed anyways, so it's not that I didn't have to try and not metagame then.
So,
Christine didn't notice that.
Golden Eyes in the chat right now is saying that, yeah, well, you can use the horn while it's on the unicorn's head. You totally can. You can, and you have a guide in Squirth Oil can, so you can bring him with you. Yeah, you totally can. You can. But you are stuck with a unicorn NPC in a mountainous terrain in Yon, so like climbing hills as a unicorn is probably not super easy. He can do pass without.
Goat.
He's probably not. But maybe. I don't know his ancestry. He's gonna go to like 23andMe, and check. Oh, I'm part goat.
Well, actually, you never know, because depends on if the unicorn is built like a modern horse or a mountain horse.
Yeah. Also, even some modern horses I know are good on mountainous terrain.
Like wild horses got away from people
riding.
and avoided being caught. Was taking mountain passes, that's where they'd foal and whatnot.
Maybe. But here's my thing about this is that when you're running this adventure for yourself at home, this is one catch in the module. So there's only a couple of ways that you can really deal with this. Number one is just remove him from play. He's not there, he's somewhere else, because the characters have to have the magic horn. Number two, maybe giving him the horn back allows him to like magically create a second horn or split it in half, like the Swords of Power in He-Man, right? Like he gives you a portion of his power or something like that you can use. Or he leads you to a place where another unicorn had died, maybe his father or brother, mother, and gifts a family heirloom to you. You can have him travel along with the party, but be aware that having a unicorn in the party is a big step up in many ways, because he's got a bunch of abilities that are super useful. It's like having a paladin that can teleport. Alternatively, you also come with the problem of if he's traveling with the party, that's another person for you to run, which can be a big pain if you're not up for it. And it does cause a minor complication. And for me, that felt like it was kind of like a stick in the spokes to the plot, because everybody's kind of picturing like the Harry Potter style, like thrusting the unicorn horn up at like the big magic thing and going like, expecto breakotum, right? And like, magic, everything gets fixed, right? But like having the unicorn there and being like, oh, we can just grab the unicorn and do like unicorn spray. It takes the win is now the unicorns and not your players. It feels like there's that extra step away where it was another person with agency who was actually fixing the problem. The unicorn was the chosen one, not your players. You were the Samwise Gamgees, which is great, not quite as satisfying to me personally. I would move him. I'd be like, maybe Skabatha left him parked at like the final area. And it was like, oh, damn, I left him there. Shit. I mean, this module is about abandoning. And you know what would happen if we had added him to the party? You would just forgot him in a game or two tied to a post anyway.
Oh,
like
yeah,
we lost our owl bear. We lost our snail.
Owlbear, the unicorn. Yeah. We're just terrible with pets.
Yeah. Either way, I think I think there's ways to fix it. Even like you could even finish it in an epilogue. You should finish it as part of the. I think that is something that we can deal with when we get to it. But yeah.
Yeah, epilogue might be a good thing. We could
also. I just want to
go back.
I just want to quickly say, people who are in the chat right now, please do not drop any spoilers about future chapters. I'm seeing some hints there. These people are playing through the game right now, and just because I'm talking about how you need it to solve a problem, please don't drop any hints. I'm just going to put that out there right there.
Going back to your original question.
So back to the original question, yeah.
The Blink Dog funeral was my favorite.
So sad.
Yeah, because it was like Isaac had something to do with it, and that was like kind of a big thing. And it was fun having his background and like the rolling for his Blink Dog friend really like coming into play was cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I liked the variety of the random encounters where it was like, yeah, we got this really like heartbreaking scene with the Blink Dogs. Then we have the mushroom. Then we just have like the like attack from the red caps, and it's just like there was a nice variety. The footprints of the Jabberwock. It's just like I liked the variety of random encounters they threw at you. Were both not just like, okay, combat, or something like that. It was like, yes, okay, something different. So it felt like a very kind of unique journey, and it was a lot of fun. All of them are really fun.
So, who was your favorite NPC that you came across? So there were tons in this one. There was Chucklehead, there was Sowpig, there was Willow the Feywild, there were all the kids, there was Razili the Red Hag, who's not in the book. That's something from my homebrew setting. There's Nib.
Of the kids, I really liked the was it the orc girl?
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked her. She was
and
fun.
Yarn Spinner. Yeah,
Yarn Spinner was cool.
I liked the coffee shop guy.
Yeah, I was gonna say him too.
Everybody wants to steal the coffee shop for their own games. I keep getting comments about it. They're like, "I'm stealing your Feywild coffee shop," and I'm like, damn it. You know, you can actually buy a Skyfire coffee apron on our Redbubble, right? Like, you can buy a coffee, like a barista apron to run your game then. Just saying.
We came up with Skyfire coffee for our homebrew.
Yeah.
It's everywhere now.
Brew.
Oh.
That's all. Wah, wah, wah. Okay, so do anybody have any particular memory that strikes out at them as like a favorite moment that you would recommend that every dungeon master do?
I really liked
Blink Dog Funeral, but yeah.
The Blink Dog Funeral, but I also really liked the one of the things where we're tying back to the stuff from the first chapter was I really liked finding Star.
Yeah.
And having that promise to reunite with the mother. It was just, it's one of those moments where you're like, when you see it, you're like, oh shit, yes, okay, cool. We're like, it's one of those like good feelings you get. Like that was one of my favorite moments, was just like realizing we found the kitten and being like, oh my gosh, we're gonna get this kitten home. Well, this lost kitten, the Displacer Beast kitten is getting home. So I really liked that. Seeing Star.
I just really liked all the little like spots where you could avoid combat.
Until you didn't, and then you're just like, die.
Yeah. Well, like even like the doll at the end. What was it, like pincushion or something?
Yep.
Just like fairly like reasonable.
Great.
Like, why would you fight? The hag's dead. There's no reason to.
Right.
Like, let me disarm you just a little bit. Also, catching boggles in a bucket.
Yeah, boggles suck, man. Like
that was kind of fun.
The boggles and boggle oil thing is interesting. I want to ask Christa. Oh, sorry, Christa. What was there something else that jumped out at you? No. Scabatha or Bavlorna? Who's better so far?
We didn't really interact with
That's what I was gonna say. Scabatha.
We kind of just killed her.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of liked having it be a little more clear, just kind of what the intent was to be, because originally we kind of had gone into it like it felt like that Bavlorna, we were going to try and kill her, and then the moment we were confronted with her, we negotiated instead. So we did do a lot more with her. Whereas we went in with a very clear plan to just deal with Scabatha and move on, especially once it became a qualification for Nico to find her brother.
Yeah, that was very sad. Was there any part of Thither that really surprised you? So we got a lot of questions like that. Like, what was the part that really surprised you? What was the part that jumped out at you?
Oh, the other thing about Thither that was great was the owlbear.
That
Juniper.
we forgot.
Yep,
That we left
Juniper.
behind.
Oops.
We left behind Speedy and then Juniper.
It's true.
I can't wait to see what NPC mount we leave behind in Yon.
I'll look ahead real quick.
There needs to be another one that Wynn can make friends with.
Oh my god, I forgot that he's in the next chapter.
Don't
oh my
tell
god,
us.
he's my favorite.
Say.
Shush, stop with the. You're not allowed to hint either.
Yeah, right. I liked actually the unexpected was the magic items we got from Nib, right? It was Nib.
Yeah.
In the
Oh
cave.
yeah.
It was Nib.
Droopy dog.
It was
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did like getting something kind of cool. Like, it's not doing too much, but it's something little, which was nice.
And seriously, that was something that where it was, actually 2 more things that I would suggest to Dungeon Masters to maybe alter. So Nib can make you a bunch of stuff, but honestly, any uncommon magic item is fine. Like particularly the non-combat items are usually better, but like the other items that he could have made for you, I think I went through them at the time, but just to remind you, the ones that were available were Amulet of Proof against detection and location, Bag of Holding, Boots of Elvenkind, Braces of Archery, Cloak of Protection, Gloves of Thievery, Wand of Secrets, or a tiny hourglass that functions like an elemental gem of the blue sapphire air elemental variety. Those are fine, but like anything that you want. Like Robin, you got a tattoo.
Yep, from the Mystical Tattoos book, which I've used once. I'm gonna we haven't had so much combat that I've had to been able to use it, but it's cool.
But so like feel free to customize what people would want. Like let them come up with some ideas. You can even let them shop around if you feel comfortable with it. Just say like, okay, no weapons. Or give them weapons. It doesn't really matter if they really want them. Give it to them. They're uncommon magic items. It's like what, a +1? It's not a big deal. But like the cooler stuff in D&D is always like the non-combat stuff. Let's be fair. I would rather have slippers of spider climb than I would a +2 magic sword. Because I can think of way worse things to do with the slippers.
I was trying to.
That would be amazing.
Right.
I had spider climb as Claudette and never got to use the thing because it never came up.
Hey,
never
Wynn.
in somewhere where ceilings where it made sense.
When I have a stuffy, I still have one of the stuffies from the Witchlight Carnival that gives you Cuddly Toy Spider Climb for an hour. So Wynn can have that. I have it in my
Imagine
notes,
Wynn having
though.
spider climb.
Oh, I want to give that to Wynn. It's home.
I spent like while you guys were talking about it, I was literally like digging through like omnibuses of items because I was trying to find something that would like I'm trying to promote like Isaac's development and journey, and I was like, okay, is there something that will like assist in help actions? Like, is there something that'll do this and do that? And I just couldn't find. And so when you said the thief gloves, I was like, oh, I mean, that will be helpful, but
Yeah.
and they're perfect. I mean, I've definitely used them. They've definitely saved my ass a couple of times.
Yeah. The Cloak of Protection is great because it just gives me that little bit better. Like,
Well, and you have it in
AC.
your art.
Yeah. Which?
Right? Yeah.
Christa.
I know. I got to do it before I move. I'm sorry.
That's fair.
I just need a table to sew on before that happens.
So
No.
we had a bunch of people ask the same questions here. So like Eval, Random Equinox, and a couple of others asked, what was the favorite thing you enjoyed that in the module? Wonka asked it as well. So like we kind of covered all of that. The other thing that I would suggest you change, and this is something that I didn't realize going in, but it is the lost items. So Caitlin's character had lost her sense of direction, and what she was supposed to get was, when she gets it back, the magic item that it turns into. Like, you lost your creativity, Robin, and it was the pipe of smoke monsters, and Isaac, you got the extending pole, right? And like, those make sense, right? Like, okay, an extending pole's kind of cool. You can do a lot of cool stuff with that in theory. And then you look at what she was going to get, and it's you lost your sense of direction, and you got a compass that tells you which way north is. while on the material realm. This game is not in the material realm until, like, maybe an epilogue, if you really want, like, unless they go back for, like, the entire adventure's in the Feywild. So, hey, have this shiny rock that you will probably throw away before then. Like, it's a magic, like, you could probably trade it to somebody. It is not useful. Like, point blank, not useful. So what I did instead was I turned it into a lantern of finding, a lantern of, what are they called? You get one of them in Rime of the Frostmaiden on one of the side quests to go hunt for elementals.
Oh, the elemental lantern thing.
Elemental lantern, that's right. So it's a lantern of finding or something like that. And I just attuned it to hags. Like it lights up when it's in the presence of, you could say fey creatures, you could say fiends. I mean, in the Feywild, that's going to be bright most of the time. But you could say that it like changes color when it's in the proximity of hags in particular.
Yeah.
It's sting.
And call it the Witch Way Lantern. Right? That's why it's great. It's cool. So please use that.
I was gonna say, before we leave this talk of magic items, I remember this what I was getting onto with Nib was the fact that I really liked that there was a reward that was not necessarily you had to kill or make something incapacitated to get, like, looting the body. It was nice to get like a reward for doing a very non-combatant combat so far, where it's not like we're just like looting bodies left, right, and center. But we still get a nice, like, kind of a bonus, the reward kind of thing. So I was just saying I like that about the module, since we're talking about magic items.
I really like it too. And I like, one of the reasons that I say that you shouldn't have Nib make a weapon for you is because of his backstory kind of led to death. So I don't think he'd be willing to. So it just stay thematic with that if you're going to make your own items in this. Like, don't make, like, the shotgun of headshotting as the thing. Maybe Nibs plays a lot of Doom. I don't know.
On other magic items, the portraits.
Portraits are okay. So those portraits are so in Loomlurch, there's a room where if you prick your finger on a thorn, the 4 portraits on the wall change into your 4 closest blood relatives, and you all figured that out. So you all know that those 4 hags are connected. Well, does it say, is it blood relative or is can it be, I think it might just be relatives. It might not have to be blood. So it could be like an
So if
aunt.
you're married or something.
Yeah, it could be your husband, I think. Let me double check that because it's been a while since I read it. But Christa, keep going on that. What'd you like about that?
Well, I think it was a real, like, it presents a really, like, I find modules tend to be a world that any players can play in, and you kind of, it doesn't really tie to you in any way. Whereas this was like a point of grounding your characters in the world, of being like, yeah, who's your family, who's there. And like for like Wynne, that was a really big thing of being like, oh yeah, you didn't even know you had family, but obviously you do. And Isaac, like, finding out that his father's gone, and like, especially with his flashback from we haven't talked about those yet, but like tying that into finding out, like, was it when he left that his father died, or did he just die later? Like, what it really brought all of that to the forefront for him in like the tip off of the flashback that was kind of like a dream, but then something that then turned into, okay, this is an active thought on his mind now, and it was very cool.
I think that's really, like, and for people with the Witchlight hand background, that's particularly useful to be able to draw things that they might not have known. And I did double check, and the chat is right. It is closest family members, which actually, I read it as closest blood family members. So it could be anyone in your family that is the closest to you. For example, I actually feel bad about this because I could have done Wynne slightly differently. I could have had people from her orphanage. And explored more of that rather than showing her that her real family. I know that's kind of a
handful of the orphans and orphanage,
right? But
Well, it'd be interesting to see if any of the other PCs are on that. If we're close enough, as if Wynn would be considering it family.
That's really interesting, Robin. That could have been really cool too. Really sweetsy. But yeah, you can absolutely use the portraits. Make it happen. Honestly, if the players are just looking around.
Isaac.
Aww.
I think I've slotted Wynn very much into the annoying little sister role, right?
Yeah.
With Isaac, so we've interacted a lot that way.
I would strongly suggest that if your players are doing this and if you really want this to happen, just make it happen. So in here, they give you a deck save to avoid being pricked. They don't take damage. Just let them prick their finger. You can narrate, be like, oh, you go and investigate, and as you do, you brush, and just barely, and make sure, because somebody's going to be like, oh, well, I'm wearing gloves of chainmail, and I'm like, yeah, well, it's a sharp thorn. You went right between the little links. You know? Okay, and, all right, one moment. I'm just going to pause here for 1 second. So, all right, whoosh, Caitlan.
Whoa, hello.
All right, so Caitlan, we were going through all the stuff in Thither. We were talking about our favorite things. So I'm going to put you on the spot right away and ask you what your favorite random encounter was, what your favorite NPC was, and what moment stuck out for you the most out of this chapter.
Okay, I really liked meeting the hag. Not Scabatha, but
Rizili?
Rizili. Yes, I loved that scene.
Everybody likes that scene, and it's like it's not in the book.
Oh, well, that was amazing.
Oh, well, thank you very much. She's actually from the Shards of Nirn. She's from our homebrew game.
Oh, neat. I thought she was super
She gave
cool.
a bunch of
I
really
enjoyed
awful
her.
prophecies to all of the characters, including Kat. Yeah. So, but because she's not nice, and she's always right. But thank you. I appreciate it. What else do you like?
I also really liked Chucklehead as a character.
Was it the Jersey accent that did it?
Probably.
You know what? People are like, why did you pick a Jersey accent? I'm like, because he's literally a Teamster union leader. Like, he's got a bunch of these goblin, little goblin thugs around him. And he's like, yeah, we work in sanitation. He's Tony Soprano, with the candy apple head.
Some other parts that stood out for me. Oops, I'm erasing my background. That's super fun.
Don't do it.
I really enjoyed being able to interact with the children as a healing Luthienne. That was quite nice.
Aww.
Well, yeah, because it's I don't know, family's a thing for her, right?
Oh yeah, totally.
She didn't have her own, so yeah, so that was quite nice. Let's see what else. Yeah. The improv coffee part was quite fun.
Everybody loves the coffee. We were talking about that on the way here.
Yeah.
Were you listening on the cab ride home or something?
Maybe.
Oh, okay.
No, I wasn't. I really wasn't. Nope.
Dragon in the Box was my favorite, I think. Out of the stuff they wrote.
Oh. But also, I loved the cave scene.
Oh, with Nib.
That was in Thither, right? Yeah.
That was in Thither, yeah.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Yes, I really, really enjoyed Nib as well. Those are probably the moments that stood out the most for me. Those are 7 of them, but still. There was so much, and yeah.
This is a really good chapter. Oh, so far, I gotta ask everybody, Hither or Thither, which one's better?
Thither.
Hands down.
I liked Hither.
Fair enough?
I liked the water part of it.
Yeah, I also
I
liked
really
the
liked
folks.
that. So.
I liked the fairy tale. I feel like this being a fairy tale world, the Thither was more fairy tales I'm familiar with, and so that I guess felt more fairy tale-y to me.
So, Thither or Hither or the Witchlight Carnival?
Oh.
So, which of the chapters was the most memorable? If you had to play one again, which would you play?
Probably the Witchlight Carnival for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, the intro was really good.
With like an opportunity to do more and like
Yeah.
to not just have a couple of hours, like to just be able to, we're gonna hang out here for a while and just like really investigate everything.
I want to say this non-critically. Ironic choice of words, critical. I have been, of course, reviewing Call of the Netherdeep because our Call of the Netherdeep game starts tomorrow night. And the beginning of that game, this is not a spoiler, but you start during a festival. That's where the game begins. It's not as good as the Witchlight Carnival. And it's not that the book is bad by any means. It's so far I'm really enjoying what I pulled from it, and the deeper I get into it on a base, like a smaller basis, the more I'm like, oh, this is really good. The Wild Beyond the Witchlight has really set the bar extra high though, and all of the stuff and all of the flavor and thought and whimsy that has gone into this module and into the Witchlight Carnival just completely blows me away, enough that where I'm looking through Netherdeep, they say things like, hey, if your characters are walking around, they walk around looking for what they want to do for X amount of time. I'm like, well, why aren't there like little like random encounter events in this chapter? The truth is, the chapter's really full. But I want that extra bit that the Witchlight Carnival did, because they went that extra mile, and now I want it in everything, right? It treated me nice, and so I'm thinking I'm probably going to end up having to write a module for DM's Guild, like a module supplement for that this week, where for stuff that we do tomorrow night for that. And I think that the Witchlight Carnival, this book is so well designed, guys. Like, Wild Beyond the Witchlight is such a good damn module. I love it. It's so good. It's so good.
I think you're right. The amount of whimsy and using your stats in a different way than normal D&D stuff, again, it kind of really set the tone for how you can play this module. And just other than the like time limit of the Witchlight Carnival, which as a DM you could magically stretch out so your players could get everything, it's just like, there's so much to do that I want to go back and replay some of the games and stuff like that and try again, and it's just so much fun.
You can run it when I'm done with it.
Ooh, I could.
We could do Wild Beyond the Witchlight speedrun edition.
I could do that for like Extra Life or something.
Just speed. Yeah, you could run the Witchlight Carnival by itself.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, it's 3 games worth of material, but you can do like a 4 or 5 hour session of it. Like, do it. Yeah, I'll loan you the book.
Sweet.
Like, that would be fantastic. Like,
awesome.
I'd love to see your interpretation of some of the characters once you get the book. So a couple of things that I wanted to cover. So some other questions that we were asked were a question for the DM from Professor Multiverse real quick. So there's a scene in there where there's an oven with a fire elemental in it where you can be pushed into it. How would you deal with the fact that the book presents no way to get out of it? I'd say that you could try to break your way out. I feel like that was designed to have a hag pushed into it more than it was designed to have. I feel like I messed up a couple things in that scene, to be honest, because like I'm bad at reading maps, apparently. I never thought I was, but apparently I've made like so many map errors during this. And thank you to all of the raids right now. I see Bards of New York in here, which is like the best name ever, and we just got raided by NPC Voices and Untold Odysseys. You all are amazing. Oh, and that one fun. God, it's been a raidful night. You're all amazing. And Bards of New York is a fantastic name. They're all fantastic, but that one particularly. As a bard, I have to agree. So they talk about like getting out of it. So like the cauldron, like I had that get knocked over. There's technically enough soup that it would have spilled everywhere. I didn't really lean into that as hard as I could. But getting out of the where is it? Trapdoor and cell, child worker, oven. While it is trapped in this, any creature that enters there takes a bunch of fire damage. If the creature is looking, I just say that like I just say that they could bust out. Like, Or alternatively, if you ever look at those old school ovens, so this requires a little like Google foo on your part, but the old school ovens that have the like a wrought iron like kind of lock, like a handle lock, you can unlock them from the inside because it's literally just two pieces of metal that pivot on a joint to hold themselves shut. They're just heat resistant. So if you were willing to take the fire damage on the other side, you could just grab it and make a strength check to move it back. It would suck.
But it would suck less than burning.
Burning to death, like burning your... Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely use the pickles and definitely use pickle damage.
Yes.
Pickle damage
Absolutely.
is the best. Custard damage and pickle damage, which just means that someone's going to be pregnant by the end of this game with like custard and pickles everywhere. And fish finger damage. Have some Doctor Who references thrown in. So I will say that there is one thing in this chapter that is old school D&D module style stuff that I dislike. And that is the one that Isaac got hit with, which is that you go into Bavlorna, or not into Bavlorna, you go into Scabbatha's library, you grab her books, and then you leave, and then they all go and dissolve because they're warded. And I'm like, that's a real dick move. Like...
I thought it was really funny.
You thought it was really funny? Okay, so never mind. I can be wrong about this stuff.
Well, I think it's that kind of thing where you're like, this will be useful, and it dissipates. That's frustrating. But this was like who really wanted to take those books? It wasn't.
I thought it was hilarious.
It was
I thought it was
funny.
a very comedic effect, where it was like, ah, yes, of course, psh, ash.
I think if you found like a cool weapon that worked really well against Scabbatha, and then you are like, sick, I can use this on the next hag, and then you walk out and it just dissipates with no save, no nothing, that would be very frustrating.
If you're gonna do that, have it dissipate in her heart. Like you stab her and then it dissolves and she dissolves too. Like make it, like tie it together. Tie it all together.
Make it a one use kind of thing. Yeah, absolutely.
What did you dislike about this chapter? If you were like, could have gone without that. Like, not even dislike, not even hate, but just like, it was all right, or just, what would you rather have not done?
Well, I said my thing already, kind of. I'll reiterate it for Caitlan.
Yeah.
Is the fact that the option to do good and to heal someone from something that's slowly killing him will reverse Chucklehead back to like back to evil, where it's kind of like, well, now I have to just let this person slowly die when we're trying to be helpful. Where it's like, yeah, it is kind of like, you know, a terminal disease or something, but it's still that feeling of like helplessness as a player kind of thing, where it was like, shit.
So, minor thing, DMs, if you wanted to be kind about this and the player was ingenuitive enough, I just thought this up, so Robin, this isn't something that you didn't do, but you could allow the unicorn horn to maybe heal it. If the player like does something like that. Alternatively, and I'm just gonna put this in your head, maybe if you go save Zybilna, she can do it.
Yeah. Oh, that was my backup plan, was gonna be like, I was gonna try and talk to Zybilna and be like, hey favor, because I think
there's a lot of epilogue stuff that we're gonna want to do.
There are several different endings for this book, and they're all good. Even the bad ones are good in this one. But what about everybody else? What was something that you didn't particularly love?
I really liked Thither, so I'm finding this pretty difficult.
Okay, you can just say none.
Well, I'm gonna keep thinking about it. I'm trying to replay it in my mind.
Having to go back and forth across that dumb pool.
Yes, that was
stupid.
It was pretty dumb. You have to go to the island and then light the brazier, and then she appears on the shore and is like,
on the other side, like,
I don't want to get wet.
Here.
Bitch, come to us.
Could have appeared over here.
And they can teleport, so she's just being a jerk. And that's me playing the module straight there and being like, okay. The other
stupid.
So someone brought this up earlier that one of the questions came from actually, you know what? Let's finish and then we'll answer that question. So, Christine,
I think it's supposed to be. Oh, sorry. I was
go
just gonna say, I think it's supposed to be like the unicorn appears in the distance, right? But you have to go through this fucking pool to get there again. So it's just kind of frustrating. It's like cool in like a mystical way, but also it's just logistically not fun.
nice.
Well, and it would have been like, oh, she appears on the other side and then walks delicately across the pool to you, right?
Better.
Like, there's so many ways they could have done it, but no. You gotta slough your way back.
Sorry, I think I was kind of off that night too, so I feel like
It's fine. It's bad in a very funny way. I just remember, like, I'm feeling Isaac. I'm being like, are you fucking kidding me?
Right? We just got soaked, light this brazier, and now we have to swim back. Because I think I prestidigitation.
I think
prestidigitation
you did.
is
Just
all
did,
dry, and it was like, seriously. Seriously.
I also, while we're thinking of Christine, while you're figuring out if there's anything about the chapter you didn't like, I want to do a quick shout out to in the chat Miss Scarlet Knits for preparing to DM Witchlight as their first big boy campaign in a few weeks. Congratulations. You're gonna do fine. I get so many people who message us or are talking on our Discord and they're like, oh, I'm really worried about this. It's like, don't worry, you're gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine. Just have fun with it. Go watch some cartoons. Go watch some like 80s and 90s cartoons, or like some Star versus the
Forces of Evil.
Yes.
Everybody go watch Star Wars.
Everybody should. I hear Centaur World has a similar vibe in some ways too, but like go watch some cartoons, have some good times, and then like just run a really cool game. Go watch the old D&D cartoon. You can find it.
There you go.
But yeah. Christine, what do you think?
I don't know. I think Thither just had a bit more of a feel of like, I didn't really feel like I was exploring the map as much.
That's fair. Because it is more just kind of clustered. Like there's Nib's Cave, and then there's like Little Oak, which is mobile, so does he even count? And then there's Loom Lurch.
Yeah, so I don't know, like we were traveling, but I didn't quite get the sense as much as like in Hither of how we kind of were pretty clearly traveling around these different places. And then it felt like we had a lot to do, and it kept just kind of getting a bit mixed up. It wasn't quite as like streamlined and like in a line as Hither, I think, which can lead to being just a bit kind of, I don't know, mentally cluttered, I find for myself.
That's fair.
It doesn't work as well, whereas like Hither felt much more fairy tale in that we were going to get help and then we had to go here, then we had to go here, and we had to do a thing here, and it didn't feel like we were doubling back. It felt like we were kind of looping in an S sort of shaped road, but we were ever going forward. Whereas I kind of felt like we were traveling in circles a little bit in Thither, whether we were or not. It just kind of felt that way.
I mean, fair. Yeah, I mean, there was kind of that type of, it was a little more plotting in places, but I thought it was still really good.
Oh yeah.
And I think Thither had a lot more like, we knew where we were going, we knew what we needed to do, whereas in Hither it has that fairy tale feeling of being lost and wandering. Whereas
so that's why I think I liked Hither better, because it felt a little bit more fairy tale versus, I guess, a little less fairy tale. It was having to work a little harder for that feeling with what was there versus the feeling of having to figure it out. I guess
That's fair. Anybody else have anything they wanted to say about like anything they would have rather not done in the chapter, or do we move on to a new question?
No, I don't have any.
I am gonna pick a fight with y'all who started fights with the friggin' red caps. We were told if you hit them, they would become red caps. There were so many other ways we could have dealt with them than attacking them.
Oh, right.
I was gonna try to be like, guys, we should tie them up while they're still ghosts.
Exactly.
And then they weren't.
well, I think
And then they weren't.
I think that was Robin. I think I'll hold this on you.
Robin. I
think that was
you
me.
started it. You had initiative because I think Wynn was going to try and catch one in a bucket or something.
You started shit with Bavlorna. You started shit with the red caps.
I did.
This is what happens when you give Robin Firebolt.
Exactly.
She just wants to use
Yeah,
it.
it's Firebolt too.
It's like if you give a mouse a
the red
cookie, if you
caps-
give a Robin a Firebolt.
The red caps are witch bolt. Get your bolts right now.
Okay, if you give a Robin a bolt.
Sorry, there you go.
Give Robin a bolt or a ball. He's now
Robin.
sassy as fireball,
Oh no.
which I got to use. I was very happy that I got to use that.
Yeah, that was
In the
pretty
last
great.
episode.
Also, one of the big things I want to encourage people in this module is make the did anybody feel like we were kind of rushing through the last episode at all? Okay, good. I was kind of worried because there's a lot of places where they kind of set you up to be able to have a lot of combat with like all of like the Tin Men and that. I liked playing them more for comedy and being like, that like Will's making a big deal and there was like the Goblin Riot, so they're obviously going to be like 2 arms, right? And then like the Fire Elemental is normally elementals aren't that bright, but this is a fire elemental that's in a fairy plane, so having one that's kind of self-aware kind of works.
I liked him.
Right? And like, Cole was great.
Yeah. I love that his name was Cole. We were all like
my
chatting in the
God.
Twitch chat about what his name should be, and then you dropped Cole, and I was like, of course it's Cole. That's
The
correct.
best one.
Well,
Correct.
if I described them with like a more feminine personality, I would have gone with Ember.
Yeah.
Also good.
Right?
I just like that for all
Or
that
Bernie.
win is
Oh, I could have
silly.
been Bernie!
That's what I was saying. I was like, his name's gotta be Bernie.
Oh.
Feel the burn. Sorry, Christine. Sorry.
For all that win is really silly and cutesy and just fun, she's got the most horrifying kill.
This is
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
This is true.
You offered it. I was like,
Always offer the chance.
All right.
However, that's going to start affecting the way that the Feywild perceives you.
yeah, I know.
Mm,
Yeah.
So Ink Goblin asked.
So I think that's kind of like one of her first full proper kills.
Yes, and you'll remember it forever. Ink Goblin asked, do you think there's anything missing from the Feywild part of the adventure? Something they should have showcased or done?
I think they've done a pretty good job, honestly.
They really covered a lot of things. I mean, I'm sure that we could nitpick about specific fairy tales that they could have included.
I honestly kind of like that they haven't given any like on the nose fairy tales
Yeah.
for the most part.
Because-
I think, Willow the Feywild is probably the closest with the Peter Pan comparison.
yeah.
'Cause, I mean,
Yeah.
in the end, it's the Feywild. It's not specifically fairy tale,
Yeah.
right? So, I don't know. I mean, I feel like we could probably
Maybe a
lean
leprechaun.
back in on some of the silly stuff a little bit more, or some weird stuff that could happen to us, like just interacting with the environment. But I feel like we've maybe gotten a little relaxed and safe in the Feywild.
I personally, I know that like Isaac, like during the carnival, Isaac didn't partake in things because he didn't like, he was like, no, I'm not, I know what this is, I'm too smart for this, I'm not gonna deal with this shit. But like, I feel like it has made for bad radio, so I was like, well, I guess he's gonna start eating mushrooms.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things is try to encourage your players to say yes to everything they feel comfortable with. Like, yeah, because it's just so good. It's so good. Isaac getting shrunk and changed and altered is so good.
Yeah.
Yes. Golden Eas, you should definitely rewatch it on YouTube to get to that part. Just to get the whole lead up to it and then just get the horrifying like moment in game. Just that being told what it was.
I did appreciate that you let me find Boggles.
Damn straight.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was if we weren't on like a timeline in the episode when we knew we needed to get to Scabatha because we had to let Hayden go, I really wanted to just huck things at corners in every room.
Right?
I was like, where are the Boggles? I'm gonna get them all. Like there was some kind of
them all.
Chivo.
You're on a hunt.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Boggle hunt.
So thank
Well,
you
the
for
funny
letting
thing
me find
is,
another.
that was
Okay.
after Nico had left, so
Yeah.
Nico would have had true sight. We could have seen them all.
I know.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, I didn't want to waste time because I
Wow.
knew we had to get to the end, and I was like, oh, I want to find the
I know,
boggles.
right?
So
Right?
I'm glad I got to find one afterwards.
I loved the revolution. Viva Prismir.
Oh my
Prismir,
god,
which you can-
too funny.
Which you can buy as a 2 different types of t-shirt on our TeePublic right now.
So
Viva
Yes.
Prismir! Viva Feywild! Oh god, we haven't sold any of them, but I think they look cool. I might
They
buy
look
one.
cool.
I might buy one the next time we do like a personal order.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so since we kind of touched on this, I want to bring this up. So Random Equinox asked, was the Red Hag encounter at the Goblin Market a means to temporarily take Nico off the board and allow Hayden to take the break from the campaign? Absolutely. A few weeks ago, about a month and a half ago, I think 2 months ago now, Hayden messaged me and said, hey, my schedule's going to be getting kind of busy, so I'm going to have to miss a couple of games coming up. I think they had like a friend's wedding coming up, and then they had like a couple conventions that they were paid to go out to because of their voice work. And I was like, okay, we'll plot around it. I'll put Nico in fox mode, and I'll just, let her shoot Eldritch Blast as a fox, because that just makes me happy having her be artillery. And then that kind of grew into I've got these great opportunities now that like I have, it basically is on Monday nights. And so I had 2.5 weeks warning to figure out a way out. And unfortunately we had a couple of illnesses, and we had to miss 1 week. You'll probably all remember, because like actually a few of us were sick that week with not COVID, thankfully. So we missed a week, and then it was like that. And I'm like, well, this is honestly, I had considered having it be something with the hag and with having like Scabatha make a deal with y'all, or it be some part of that. But honestly, when it came down to it, I was like, I'll pull in the Red Hag, which is the Red Hag is a type of monster from Kobold Press's Tome of Beasts. They're really cool. I don't use any of their stats and almost anything but the art as inspiration when I use them, because the idea of like a bright red-skinned creature called a hag that honestly just looks more like a slightly nosier elf. Something about that just kind of is like, there's something neat about this concept, and it's kind of really resonated with me. So I kind of just added all that stuff about how they're hags that hate hags because of an ancient slight where the other hags betrayed them or something like that. So now they're evil hags that are more evil to hags than they are to normal people, but they're evil to everybody. So I needed to do something to remove Hayden from play for a while. So giving them a bittersweet, tragic, sad ending was kind of my idea there. And it's also good because if something goes really well for Hayden and they're unable to return for the finale, then they have a good write-off. Like, it is one of those endings where if they end up not being able to come back, it's still sort of resolved. So long as,
and that can be something of, you see 2 foxes jumping off into the forest together, like
Yeah.
I can literally hand wave it away.
Mm-hmm.
No,
So yeah,
that ending was brutal.
Magic.
And then Crystal later with the TikTok to the song that you did it to.
Christa,
Holy
can
shit,
you-
I cried watching that. I was
can
like,
you
editing it, it's so rough.
can you post the TikTok and the Twitch, like the link?
I can probably do that.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'll try and see.
So let's take a look. What other questions? Let's see. So there are 2 really long questions. So someone asked, by the way, I have a question for the players. This is from Golden Aes, or Golden Aes. Tell me how it's pronounced. Are you getting the vibe that Mr. Witch and Mr. Light kind of hinted at you that each realm and hag are related to the past, present, and future? So like that's kind of a good way to look at it, right? Because it's the Hourglass Coven, and also it's the Law of Threes, and also you're starting with the swamp, going to the forest, and then to the mountains. So there's like striation between all of them. Were you kind of catching on to that, or is it just kind of like just kind of rolling with it?
Well, I remember him saying that. I haven't necessarily gotten the vibe of past and present.
Well, and I think that it's because Hither drops the ball a bit. on it. Because, like, okay, so yawn being the future, right? Because it's yawn, it's over there. And also there's a lot of stuff in it, like, Gwendolwynne does a lot of things involving prophecy. So that would imply that Bavlorna is all about the past. But there wasn't really much in that makes me think it's about the past.
She's all about her looks.
Well,
Like,
the world feels a lot like, well, it's about being stuck in the past, right? Like that, like the Bullywug court is very
I guess.
old
Okay, yeah, I guess so.
and kind of is stuck in this rut of trying to reclaim that, and she's stuck trying to reclaim her past beauty and her past youth.
See that?
Oh yeah.
Again, it's there,
You have to think about it if you're not.
but I'm also
necessarily-
an English major, so
I mean, but you have to kind of reach for that. I think the thing about like thither being the present makes sense because the present doesn't have to feel like anything special. Like that's the trick about the present has the easy assignment. Present shows up to the presentation and just like signs their name on it, right?
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, current events, things were happening, like I guess the turmoil between the revolution of the, I don't know.
well, and also she's the one who's doing like she's writing letters to both sisters, so she's acting as an intermediary. But is she I'm forgetting the place. I know that Gwendolwynne is the youngest, so she's the future. Bavlorna is the oldest, right? Or no, Bavlorna is the middle child. So yeah, I think they kind of like the themes are kind of a little quagmiry. I think it's a little mired.
Yeah.
Well, and Goldneus makes a good point because, like, what's his Nib and his regrets and things like, so you'd think that would be past.
But then you're going through them in the wrong order because, like, if Christmas Carol has taught us nothing, it is we go past, present, future.
Well, exactly. That's we're just saying that it does a bad job of playing to those themes because they put a character who has like regrets about his past.
And Miss Scarlet Nitz is saying right now that there's a bunch of stuff about kids and toys, particularly. In that chapter, so there's that. They kind of drop the ball a little on the placement there.
I'm gonna be honest, I feel like that was a thing they threw on afterwards and were like, it's like past, present, and future, and it's like, no, it's not. It just it doesn't have to be everything.
Yeah, because Scabatha doesn't seem like a past Scabatha. So that's an interesting thing. I think that's different. It's weird. It's a little off. It's a little off. That might be one of the weaknesses of the module, but overall, it's quite good. Robo Luchador asked to everyone, how are the AD&D Greyhawk references hitting? Because this chapter adds a lot more examples. For one, I can say this now: there was a clown in the Witchlight Carnival who was named Thaco, like 2-hit armor class 0.
Yeah.
So Thaco was there, but as well, Elkhorn and Zyrak are both characters from the old AD&D modules, right? The old Greyhawk modules. And by the way, since you've decided to go with Elkhorn, he has the worst stats, guys. He's got like 2 or 3 minuses, including strength. It doesn't make any. He's a fighter. Like, what is wrong with you, bro?
I don't care. He's wonderful.
I was gonna say he's great. I don't care.
He's great, Grandma Dwarf. I think they're pretty cute. Zarak was funny because that fight like ended real quick, and the first comment I saw about that was, "Yep, that seems right," compared to what I saw before. Because like in all of the media, apparently he goes down like a sack of potatoes in every fight.
That's funny.
And
consistency.
Like, it's like, oh wow, that was quick.
See, I feel kind of bad because like I started playing right after 3.5 came out, and so like most of my first games were 3.5 before I turned to Pathfinder. I have played in a couple 2nd edition games, but they've all been like not homebrew, but they've all been like they haven't been modules. So I haven't played any AD&D or done any of the modules. I've bought some for Christmas gifts for people, but I haven't looked through them myself. So I knew Thaco obviously, but I didn't know any of the other ones.
Yeah, 'cause there,
Yeah.
'cause
My-
Yeah, I didn't recognize any of the others, but then like I didn't play those
they
D&Ds.
They had
so.
action figures. So if you Google Zarak action figure or Zarak D&D, the action figure comes up. But let me just check. So Elkhart.
Yeah, my dad has AD, so I bet if I go and look at his modules,
I bet you do.
I
That
can
would
find
actually
them.
be
But I never
pretty
actually
rad.
read them. Oh, I'm going up on this Thursday. I'll go find some modules and see if I can steal
See,
some.
that sounds like an Extra Life game.
Right? Oh my god! Try and run AD&D.
So, but there's no Elkhart figure from the looks of it. His name's Elkhart, right? Like that's. I didn't get that wrong. Elkhart.
Yeah, I'm much the same. I love watching other people freak out about it and think that it's amazing, and I think it's amazing too, but I also don't get any of the references without that because I only played from 3.5.
Oh
So
no! There is an action figure of Elkhorn. I had his name wrong because I'm smart like that. So if you all Google Elkhorn action figure, it even has like his blurb on his case. Dwarves can see in almost total darkness, and this is just about dwarves. That's not. He's a good action figure.
oh, yeah, I see.
Better than a crap action figure. That's good.
Amazing. New
Wait, they had
Battle-matic
an elf
action.
name. They have an elf named
Battle
Melf.
Yeah, as in Melf's acid arrow.
Yeah.
Oh,
Amazing.
well, that makes sense. I always called it Milf's acid arrow in my
dwarf.
high games.
God.
MILFs.
Yeah, you draw the power from Lady Dimitrescu, and it strikes true. But no, it's yeah. Okay, so we have a serious couple questions that we should probably address before we start working on wrapping this up. So from Danny Darko, I just love the roleplay heavy setting, but I have no clue how to improvise, and my players love fighting. Lol. I think that's lol. Or it could be lots. I don't know. No clue how to improvise. Improvisation is a muscle you have to build up, first of all. I strongly suggest just trying as early as you can, because the more you do it, the better you'll get at it. I used to think that I was not a very witty person until I started running tabletop games, and then it kind of was like, it was practice, right? I don't know, but that was, like you kind of feel like a bit quieter in like the high school age and stuff like that. And I think that a lot of what you're doing with improvisation is you're just saying yes. And then just changing the second word, right? Like Christa, it's all yes and yes, but yes. And so on.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that for improvisation, once you talk to your players and you make sure that everybody's on the same page for like, hey, so we are going to like, everybody lean into the fun of this. Like, let's all have fun. And I
mean, if you're really dedicated, like if you and your friends are like, we want, especially if you want to do it performatively, if you really want to work on your improvisation, like there's tons of improv games and like little fun things. Like my favorite is Questions. Like Questions is the best improv game in existence, and I love it so much. Have any of you guys played Questions?
nope.
I believe so, yeah. I think I have.
The whole premise is you have to have an entire conversation in questions, and you can't make statements. Everything has to be a question.
Why?
And how do you not know?
Why haven't you told me about it before?
Why would you expect me to tell you?
Wasn't this on Whose Line Is It Anyway?
I can't believe you would even watch that show. And see, that's where I lose.
There we
Because
go.
I made a statement instead of saying, why would you
Why
think
would you
I
even-
watch that show, right?
Yeah.
How old do you think I am? Like,
There we go. You brought it around.
That's a good
Yes.
one.
Wouldn't you like to know?
that was
Cool.
exactly right. So like, it's a very fun game because it makes you like think on your feet, especially if you have someone like timing you. It's a great game, and there's tons of stuff like that. There's tons of little like improv things of coming up with stuff, right? So
I think so tell your players to lead into it. If your players are really combat focused, start introducing improvisation into combat. So it's really easy because then it allows you to add flavor rather than like, I hit him with my sword. Be like, great. Start adding things into the scene, or tell your players that like, so long as it doesn't immediately solve the situation, they can add things to the scene as well. One of the rules that I always have is that I'm really bad at describing, I think I'm really bad at describing rooms. Because I forget things that would be in a room. Like I'm not going to take 5 minutes to Tolkien style describe every nook, cranny, hole, candle, candlestick, mount, nut, rivet, bit of caulk, a bit of like masonry splinter on the walls of this room. So, you know, maybe there's a chandelier I didn't describe. If there's likely a chandelier there and someone's like, well, is there like something I can swing off of? And I'll be like, boy, is there.
Go watch the last episode of for Bassick Park.
Oh, yeah.
I was
Talking about
driving.
improv areas.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry, go ahead, Robin.
I was driving and there was like, I forget, like an old lowrider muscle car, and in the car, I kid you not, was a chandelier.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
a mini
Hell yeah.
mini
You were telling me
chandelier.
about that.
Hell yeah.
Did you
Yeah,
swing
it
from
was. I did not swing from it, but he might have been able to. It was blocking his rearview mirror, so I don't know how he was driving, but you know, it was funny. So just thought of that with a chandelier. It's just driving. It's like,
That's so
Is
extra.
that's a
pretty
chandelier.
extra. Our friend Fakeaster brings up that they have a rule that if the players can give a really good RP reason for something, then they can use it to roll with advantage. Yeah, totally. I mean, let the players do some of the work for you. It makes your life way easier. Like, if your players are the type who will use it and they won't cheese it, like the trick is to really build a communication and like a social contract at the table where it's like, all right, the door is locked. You know that the princess is on the other side, and you need to get in there and kill her before she, you know, I don't know, takes over the nation, because she's an evil princess. This isn't a damsel in distress thing. But, you know, you have to kill the dragon on the other side of that door. What do you do? It's like, oh, I lift up a rock. You're like, okay. There's a spare key under it. And I'm like, you have two options there. One, you can say, yeah. You have three options. You could say, yes, there is a key to the door if you're short on time. You just want to get in the damn door. The door has defeated them 15 times. You could also say, yes, there's a key, but it's not the right one. But it is, in fact, the key to the princess's heart. I don't know. You can make up whatever you want. Depends on your setting. Or you could just say, like, come on. You know, or someone who's like, oh, I look around, I find a +5 sword of badassery. You're like, do you really? You mean you find a wooden sword that has that written on it? Sure.
Just says BAMF on it.
Yeah, bam.
Oh my gosh.
You know, it crits on a 2, okay? But on a 1, the universe explodes.
Oh.
Right? So long as your players aren't going to try to cheese it, yeah, let them incorporate stuff. Like, let them improv stuff. That'll make life easier for you. But as for, like, learning how to improv, one of the hardest lessons that it is for people to learn, and I mean this lovingly, but for people who do not consider themselves to be creative, or for people who are not naturally creative people. I don't mean that as an insult. I just want to, you know, make sure that's known. Steal. You have watched movies. You have watched television shows. I say this every time I run a panel at a convention. I say this every time that I have taught a class. Steal and reflavor heavily. Star Wars is stolen from a bunch of Akira Kurosawa movies, Buck Rogers, and a couple of other sci-fi properties, and it's all melanged together in a Cuisinart and like repurposed into something that's pretty cool. Do the same thing. Take little bits and pieces. Just reflavor it a little, because that's what every story is. Every story is just taking something and repackaging it just a little bit so that it's fresh and new. We are limited in the amount of creative concepts that we can come up with. What is it? There are only 8 real stories, Christa? Is that the...
Oh, I was just reading a book about this.
There are
Yeah.
8 core myths, core
Yeah,
narratives, right?
there's I think it's 8, and everything else is just a spin on that. Yeah.
So, like, if you're stuck for an idea, be like, what you do is you go, okay, so okay, you guys saw Game of Thrones, right? Like, remember the scene with like the dragon and he's like burninating like the throne at the end? And they're like, yeah. And you're like, yeah, it's like that, but different. And then you say, different. And then they'll totally be on for the ride. They'll think that you are way more creative than you feel because of but it's different.
Yeah.
And because people are, if you have good players, if you have players that actually want to have fun, they will follow you on the butt adventure. And they will be like, oh, this was the entire, he was just, or they were just using the metaphor of Game of Thrones to explain it to us like we're on a Star Trek episode. Oh, it's like putting too much air in a balloon. You know, like
I was gonna say I also like it kind of the backwards of like doing a description. I've done things where I'll give this big description and then at the end of it go, none of you are understanding what I mean. Okay, you know this thing? And they're like, oh, yes, perfect.
Yeah.
Yes, I totally understand.
I mean, copycatting, I literally have Doctor Strange as my character inspiration for Sarcyra. I've reflavored Doctor Strange into Sarcyra.
You mean Professor Weird?
Yes,
Oh my
Professor
gosh.
Weird.
Golden Ias actually just pointed out something fantastic there, that you could find Rambo and Power Rangers in the Iliad. You can find the Iliad in Power Rangers and Rambo, because I've written entire papers. Like, I have a classics degree, folks. I've written entire papers on ritualistic arming sequences in movies, because like it's so good. It's so good. God, I love ritualistic arming scenes. There's nothing better than like that scene from Commando where Schwarzenegger's like greasing himself up and putting all the knives in and the belts and like, oh, it's so good. Oh, it's the best thing ever. And that's literally just taken out of the Iliad. It's so good. It's so good. We're all so dorky. So yeah, there's that. They really like fighting things. Let them fight things. Quick reminder, enemies can plead. Enemies can run. Enemies can beg. Make the good fights good and make the bad fights unpalatable if you want to. If you want to discourage them from fighting, have the tin soldiers be like, no, I have family at home. Or, have the absolutely like unsalvageable people be unsalvageable, but like have like goblins beg for their lives. Maybe they're tricky. Maybe they'll beg for their lives to be like, I can give you gold if you let me live. And then they just try to escape because they don't want to fight, man. They overestimated this. But yeah, like it's kind of like the biggest question that we had was from Revan Knight, actually. This was a comment on a YouTube video, and I wanted to touch on this real quick. Just around the second chapter, one player sort of rushed along. Players got bored as this player rushed past the talking heads. This is back in Hither. The Soggy Court storyline, the rest of it by going straight to the cottage, busting in the door, forcibly searching everything, and then going straight to the hag to fight. No sneaking or exploration. I feel like I failed somehow. Two players just said there wasn't anything to do after the first 2 hours, and she zoned out. One wanted to rush combat, and one was new. One was fine with everything. So I'm not sure exactly how many players you have there, but that's a rough one. Like, that's really like, even so that player
kind of question what that one player is getting out of the game. At that point, if you don't want to engage in anything in the game, you just want to win.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of like a conversation with the player that needs to be had on some ways of like, hey, like, you want to have fun?
Well, and honestly, like if you're a whole table, like I think Eolus in the chat was saying that like one of their players left because they didn't want a heavy RP game, and that's totally valid. Like if you want to play a game where you just build the most badass character and you just like play out fight scenes, I mean, that's like people play Mortal Kombat for a reason, right? Like it's this. Yeah, exactly. It's fun. It's fun to do that kind of thing as long as that's what everybody wants to do. So that kind of situation is like, yeah, okay, if you want to just rush through this, like be considerate of your teammates, right? Like, because you're all supposed to be a team, DM included. Like, it maybe we do check-ins pretty regularly of, hey, like, what do we want out of this? What are we doing going forward? Where do we want to see these characters go? We do it at the beginning, basically every episode, really. Like,
session zeros are fantastic. Like, they're
exactly to really say, like, hey, this is what we're going to do. If at any point you feel like this is not going well, make sure you talk about it. And communication is key in all things.
And it's brought up in the Twitch chat right now. One of the things that people really forget when they're running and being a dungeon master, a game master, a storyteller, whatever you want to call yourself, you deserve to have fun. If you are not having fun, you shouldn't be doing it. And for a lot of us, and for a lot of people who get stuck in the forever DM spot, because they maybe don't have access to other people who want to run games and they just want to be involved in the magic of role-playing, right? That they get stuck doing it. Now, I love doing it. Like, I am the inverted amount. I would rather run than play. And when I do play, it is a treat. It's like, it's actually way more stressful for me to play a game than it is to run one at this point. Because I overthink things, because I only get one player, or one character rather than like the million I get, when I'm, but any game that I have ever ran because I felt obligated to run it was the worst time imaginable. And I think that's really important to remember when you are a dungeon master or a game master, because say you have a 4-hour game session. Your players, if they level up between sessions, and if they write backstories, and if they do tons of downtime activities, collectively probably put as much time into the game as you do. All of them together. As a dungeon master, you live in your game world part-time. Especially when you're doing homebrew settings, for every 4 hours of game time, I am prepping or brainstorming at least 4 other hours. Like, and this could be casual. This could be like I'm driving and I'm like listening to music and I've got like some Klaus Belt from the Pirates soundtrack just blaring and I'm like, yeah, and then the dragon's gonna come down and be like, yo, what up? I'm a dragon. And yeah, it's a cool scene. And then like hopefully Cat will say something cool. Probably not, but no, kidding.
Shade.
Burn cat. No, I love you, Cat. It's all good. But if you're not having fun, find out why, and talk to your players, because like they are probably not paying you. For the most part, most people who run D&D aren't paid. Some of us are rare exceptions that are. But most people, and hell, like for like 18 years, I ran it because I loved it, and that just kind of turned into my job. But nobody's paying you to be there. And if it's awful for you, find out why and talk to them about it, because you are the linchpin of your game. Like a DM can't run without players, but the players can't play without a DM. There are 3 important things to any D&D game. It is the DM, the players, and the place you play at. Maybe snacks.
Dice also a little bit.
One.
You can fake
dice.
it. You can do pieces of paper. In the original D&D, they had like cut out pieces of paper you put into a dice bag, and you just drew them.
Oh.
Like a D20 bag, right? You pull out a number 1 through 20. But as for this, like, I struggle to think, like, if I had a player that was rushing this, because there are some things that happen like this, like players rushing, or the dreaded teleporter. Y'all know what I'm talking about there. The player who teleports to wherever something is in the verb tense. They're on the moon and somebody in New Jersey goes, oh, well, I checked the door to see if I have a lockpick kit. You are not on the same plane of existence. How did you get there? Well, I just thought that I would be there. Well, you ain't. If you're running online, having control of the mute button is particularly handy for that. But you might lose a friend. Are they really your friend, though? No. But like, what about
communication?
But what about y'all? Because we've all played with people who tried to speedrun games. We've all, maybe even been somebody who was speedrunning games on a bad day. What advice would you have for this person?
Well, if you're speedrunning it and the pace is going with you, chances are you're also talking over everybody who also wants a shot at doing things too. So there's the problems are multifold with people who are doing that, right? So I think that's definitely, it needs to be a conversation, probably just between everybody, with how they interact not only with the DM and the story, but with their other players. And because they're obviously, if like they're the ones that's pushing it forward, they're not taking into consideration everyone else's enjoyment as well. And like you said, they just want to win or get to the finale point, but then there's no growth. All you're doing is hitting things, and if you're, I don't know.
One, I think like
what they want.
That's great.
It depends on like what sort of game you want, because it does. Like, do you want a sandbox game, which is kind of what D&D is more designed towards? Like, there's so much stuff you can do even within a module. There's a lot of little bits that you can explore. You don't have to just follow the shortest path through the module. And it kind of feels like most of these modules are like $50 too.
Yeah, in Canada, like Wild Beyond the Witchlight was Call of the Netherdeep was 70 with tax the other day, because it's 60. It's 65
Get your
Canadian
money's
dollars.
worth. Like, do you really want to speed run through? Like, then you're gonna be done and have to find a new game to play. Like,
Well, the player didn't pay
New
for
characters.
it, probably.
The player doesn't care.
no, that's true. But at the same time, it kind of feels like, well, why waste the experience? But
And the character. Sorry.
Yeah,
I guess it just
exactly.
depends
I get
on
real
what you're
attached to
actually
characters.
trying to get out of it.
Well, yeah.
And part of that is like just a discussion, if you think you can have that discussion as friends first. Like, I'm assuming you're friends, but
Oh, there's another thing. Don't run games for people who aren't your friends if you can help it, because
they have no reason to make it good for you.
it's like I've been in games with people who were not my friends. I've been in games with people who were actually like not quite my enemies, but like that high school level of like, wow, I really hope you get a flat tire on the way home and everything's fine, but it's inconvenient. I really hope you stub your toe on the way out of this room type of people. And you have to deal with that, right? But like, don't run games for people you don't like. You'll be mean to them by accident, or you'll overcorrect for them. And also, why, if you don't have to keep them in your life,
If you
5
don't
hours a
like
week.
them, why hang out with them? Because really, D&D should be the vector for spending time with your friends. Like, it's a game.
And
Generally, you want to do that with friends.
Yeah, and I
And
say this
also-
coming from the Midwest, where I grew up in a town of 2,000 people. Like, I get it if these are the only people that'll play games with you, but go hop on like the D&D Discord. Like, look for some people. Sorry, Robin.
I was gonna say also one of the things that I wanted, if you're listening, Revan Knight, later on, I know you sent this a couple months ago into the other how-to video, but if you listen, I'd just like to say, you did not fail. You are not failing as a DM. So don't think that. You are, every DM that runs this, there's no failure. There is a lack of communication, and honestly, it sounds like your players are really not considering you. I think Golden Ias said it really well earlier in the chat, was like, if you're not having fun with the murder hobos and the fast running, do a session 0.5. Do it again and try and like, get your players in on this, because you're not failing them at all, and you're not failing as a DM. You're doing a great job, I'm sure.
Danny in the chat also said that doing a check-in at the end of every chapter too is a good idea to keep everybody on track. Like, that's a pretty good idea too.
Revan on YouTube did actually, I replied with some advice on what I would do, and then wanted to add it here. He did, or they, I'm not sure, did respond and said that they sat down with their player and they talked through it and were like, hey, everybody else was kind of not having a great time, and like, do you mind slowing it down a little bit so we can kind of play in the world? And the player agreed, and their next session went great. So
that's fantastic.
Amazing.
yeah, so it definitely plays into the communication, because like a lot of the time I feel like people generally aren't malevolent. They're not doing things to be an asshole. You're just doing it because you didn't think about it.
People are
like
thoughtless.
people are oblivious a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So you know what? It like just say it first, and then give everybody a chance to listen to you. And if they don't, boot them. But if they do listen, then great.
After this game, you could always run a game that's specifically designed to be the murder hobo game, where you can run through shit, killing everything.
Speed run.
Yeah.
Designed to do it.
Or just run Curse of Strahd, where it's the exact opposite.
Gets to try something out, and you all try something different each time.
Yeah, and on my girlfriend Fakeaster just had to deal with a group kind of exploding because no one was checking in with anybody, and a lot of triggers were set off, and some really bad shit happened, and so that became that blew up a friend group because people weren't checking in. So it's rough. Very it's very much something that you gotta pay attention to, that kind of stuff.
Well, and that's the thing, is like, you guys don't necessarily see it when you're watching us play, but when we do have something that is like rough in character, we do have a cooldown once we've turned off Twitch. Like, we're still on the call, and we do have a check-in, and that's when we like might cry or whatever, right? It's like we deal with something or express it so that we don't leave feeling sour, because you might feel sour in character, but that's very easy to drag over onto your friend who is playing the other character, just because you're feeling it.
Bleed is real, like emotional bleed. So like be aware of that, and we actually will have a panel on bleed and emotional stuff in Dork Tales Expo, which is going to be next month. It's going to be like a weekend-long convention. All the videos will be up on YouTube afterwards as well. But yeah, watch out, because like sometimes like you need to separate yourself because you get pissed about something in game, and it'll taint the way you feel in real life. And I'm sure some people will say that that's just being overreactive, but honestly, it's the same with acting. If someone is being aggressive with you, or if someone is doing something that pisses you off, even if you're acting, there is still a nugget of truth in your acting usually.
Well, if you end up getting face to face with somebody else and you're both screaming at each other in character, it's going to set off the hormonal responses in your body of anger and aggression, and danger and just fight or flight and all of that feeling. You're going to get flushed. You're going to have all those reactions that you would have if this was real, because it's happening. And
not even something that extreme, but like there can be like little things that set people off as well. Like D&D is becoming much more popular, but a lot of us are nerds, guys. We're dorks, we're nerds, we're geeks. We used to be like have our lockers vandalized. Like, I mean, those of us who like went to school in like the 90s and 2000s, right? Especially like it used to be bad. Like the stuff that like kids would have to put up with. So having people like mess with your dice, like people get really territorial, but don't touch other people's dice. Don't. And some players will...
My sister's boyfriend touched my dice one time when I was over for Christmas, and I lost my shit, and then my sister was like, Robin, what are you doing? Catherine, if you're watching this, yes, I'm calling you out.
Yeah. But like, I mean, everybody's got their things, right? Like, some people don't like specific words being used. The number of times I've had players be like, oh my god, don't use moist.
Yeah, that's fair. D&D also does touch on some really big issues that some people may see as like, oh, why does that set you off? Why can't you talk about this? But it just talks. I don't know how to say it.
Actually, you bring up a really good point there, Caitlan. So if there's something that bugs you in a game, you do not have to explain why it bugs you. The fact that it bugs you is enough. It's just our auto mod caught kissed as a sex-based term. The settings aren't that high. I don't know what, but like
spicy.
Ooh. So
I mean, holding hands it's pretty spicy already.
It's pretty lewd.
Going anywhere beyond that.
So, but like looking at what y'all like. Yeah, if something bugs you, it bugs you. Like, just be honest about it. Like, try not to be aggro about it. Try to be calm about it, and just kind of, hey, I didn't love this. Once again, I will always say this: the easiest way to do this is with the crap sandwich. It's the easiest way to give constructive criticism. Is like, Christa, I really love the way your hair's looking tonight. Like, seriously, I don't know how you get it like that. It looks so like almost anime girl. Like, it's great. Like, it's so bouncy and red. I really don't like I was thinking about the way that your character was acting last episode, and I think that Isaac was a bit more prickish than he could have been. Maybe, is there any way we could chill this out? But like, god damn, his makeup's good. It's so hard to be mad at him. See, boom, boom. So you slide that criticism in between two compliments.
There you go.
And I'm sorry that they were appearance-based compliments. I realize now, but like I'm looking at your face.
Keeping them on the same page is definitely good. Of like, yeah, like, you know, I really like how you've been doing this with your character. This you could probably, maybe we can work on that because I think it's causing some troubles, but you're also doing this really, really well. So do you want to talk about any of that?
Yeah.
Also, I'm just gonna quickly interject here. I copied a Google Doc form for a copy of the RPG consent thing because Sunblight, I think, put in a comment mentioning about an RPG consent list for things like if you're gonna have session 0. So I just thought I'd slide that Google Doc in there for the chat if you need it for if you're gonna play a game. This is a great way to have a talk with your players, and then, you know, if something bugs you that you know can come up, you can put that to let your DM know, or things like that. They can have conversations. But I just thought I'd quickly slide into there. So if anyone's wondering what that link was, it's a Google Doc.
And one thing about RPG consent that I want to say as someone with attention deficit disorder is sometimes you will put something down, you'll tell your DM, you'll tell your game master, and they might accidentally do a little bit of it anyway if it's something that is not particularly something that they would consider normally. It might just slip their mind. And that's should not be malicious. But for example, if someone has like a fear of ducks, I don't know, I'm picking ducks randomly because I don't think I'm going to offend anybody with that. But if someone is afraid of birds and you accidentally mention a bird because you're like, oh, and then this guy, there's a bird, you're like, oh crap. Because I literally did this in a game where I said a word that referenced something that someone has a phobia of, and I was like, oh, balls, be gracious, and so long as your game master's contrite, please just be forgiving, unless it's something that's like really, really bad. Like be charitable both ways, I guess is what I mean to say.
Yes. Yeah. And if you do say something, don't hang on it too long of like, oh shit, sorry, moving forward, and like
yeah, I was gonna say the quick apology, but don't belabor it, because then you're just drawing attention to the thing they hate.
This it's almost like misusing a pronoun for somebody. Like if you have any friends that are transitioning and you accidentally use the wrong pronoun, or like early on if you might use the wrong name for a minute, just apologize, move on, self-correct, move on. That's generally the easiest way to get over it, because then you're not making it agonizing for everyone.
Everyone just sitting there going, just move on.
Well, because I've been the guy that agonized over it, right? And now I'm just like, shit, sorry, moving on.
Yeah.
You know, and eventually you'll get it down, but it can be hard to switch gears on anything in life. So just be charitable yourself and try. Just try. Trying is the most important thing. Yoda was wrong.
Try is everything.
Yoda was wrong about so much.
So much. I'll say afterward, then you can check in with the player and be like, hey, I'm sorry, or private, you know, if it's really bad, if people need to, especially not on a live stream game, even if we were, it's okay to take a break and come back if it's something that's like really affecting the player and they just need 5 minutes to like chill themselves out. Like it's a game, so you can hit the pause button if needed to as well, but you know, the quick apology and move on is great, unless it's like, you know.
So we got a question from Coke Machine, which cheers. How do you handle min-maxers who almost every session ask to level up? Sometimes I assume they're just giving me the business, but I'm not sure. There are many ways. It depends on your party. It depends on your table culture. It depends on who you are to them. I have a feeling that with a lot of my games, because I'm kind of in the daddy DM role, I could just be like, well, now you're an extra session away from it.
Oh.
I mean, even
every
then,
time
like,
you ask, I move the goalposts.
Oh my gosh.
Like,
I'm turning
look
this
at what they
campaign right
did
around.
in the session, right? Like, because a lot of the traditional ways of leveling are XP based that you get from killing things, and each thing has an amount assigned to it.
Yeah.
That you then divide among the party.
See, I was gonna say just go full XP, because that like milestone is kind of how everybody does it now, because it's easier.
Oh yeah.
But like, just give people XP. And
counting XP used to be horribly boring.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And just, but it's gonna shut
if that's
people up.
what they're really obsessed about, maybe it's worth it to like just do it that way. Because then they can see how far they are away from it.
Yeah, it's
and
not. Are we leveling up? Are we leveling up? Well, are you close?
I would say, like, just tell them earn it.
Yeah. Just be really consistent about whichever way you do it, because if you are doing milestones, it's kind of like did you do the same, like, did you do as much as you did like the previous sessions to earn it, right? Did you really? But I do agree that that in that case the XP is probably just the best way to.
Unless they turn
Personally,
into murder
I like
hobos.
milestones.
That's
Because
true.
you could
That's
kind of
true.
set up your own leveling of like, okay, well, I want to do this next time, and you have to be this level to be able to even attempt it. So we need to get you to that level, right?
I think just having like having XP set up of like you said, to avoid murder hobos, be like, no, you get XP for story applicable kills, and you get XP, like, I will tell you if this is an XP fight or not. If you kill something without it, doesn't matter. No, maybe it's negative XP. Maybe it'd be like, no, you'll lose XP if you kill this guy.
God.
And the
I remember
idea that
negative levels.
Sunblighter put out about applying XP to non-combat as well, giving
Absolutely.
an XP value to certain like story beats.
Paizo did a lot of that stuff with Pathfinder, actually.
I
but,
loved
like,
the way Paizo did XP. Yeah.
Like, honestly, like, it is really good, and this might be a controversial opinion. It is really great to see Wizards of the Coast with D&D starting to put out modules that are the same quality that, like, first edition Pathfinder modules were.
Yeah.
Those things were great, and they still probably are. I haven't read one in quite a while, but, like, by and large, like, Paizo was putting out great adventures with great NPCs and
Well,
great
I love
work.
that they were divided up into books.
It also was a great way to just kind of, milk us, but, like,
Yeah.
it's also good. It was really, I really did like that though, because it was way easier to drop $20 on part 1 of a module. It would cost you more in the long run, but if your game fizzled in book 1, like half of the games I ever ran for Pathfinder did, and I'm pretty sure that's about the average.
But you buy book 1 and you hook them into the game,
Buy me book 2. My birthday's
and then
coming
go,
up.
I need help buying book 2.
Exactly.
There you go.
$5
You guys
each.
want me to run? Okay, let's all buy book 2.
Well, it
Okay,
ended up, like,
let's buy book 3 and 4. Let's
I started
go.
running a Pathfinder game, and I think I got,
You got a
the
lot of
first
stuff
book-
for Christmas or your birthday.
and then like between you and like a couple other people in the group, I think you guys all bought me the books, so I had the entire 8 set.
Because we had to
I
hunt
didn't-
them down because we were moving to 2nd edition at that point. So I had to do some hunting for some of those. Some of those were eBay purchases, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, and we ended up not finishing it because stuff happened.
Nope,
But
it's still on the shelf. It's right
I
there.
keep it's actually a decent story. I keep meaning to kind of like try and find time to like transfer stuff over into D&D language and try and like change out, okay, well those are Pathfinder skeletons, so that means that would be D&D this or whatever, because they're not the same CR and that sort of thing, right? Try and kind of like use the story but change the encounters to fit D&D land.
Yeah, but I think overall, I mean, it's something we talk about a lot. And Christa reiterated it earlier. Talk to your players. Talk to everybody. Talk. I make sure everybody's on the same page. It can be difficult. Don't assume that anybody assumes anything, including your own assumption of assumptions.
And also don't assume that people are intentionally trying to offend you. In most cases, it is an oopsie, so if something does, like, affect you by someone's attitude or something, again, communication, they probably be like, oh shit, I didn't realize, I'm so sorry. Next time I won't, like, say some, like, word it differently for, like, your character. Because, yeah, sometimes people make mistakes, we're all human.
And if they
all
are
trying
trying
to
to
have fun.
offend you, and they're making that face, you know the one.
Oh my god.
And just the rat face. Kick him to the curb. We all know that one guy at like the D&D club at high school who was like, "I kill your character." Nyeh.
Yeah.
All
See,
right.
I played
My
with
parents love me.
seasoned. The people I played with in high school were my boyfriend's family, who like his mom and stepdad and like all their friends that played like hard role play since first edition.
I was just thinking
so I didn't have that.
Oh, that's so good. I think that you would
And I
have
joined
better
here
just switch
and
it over
now.
to be like, I kill your character. Be like, okay, your parents love me more than you.
Exactly. Yes.
Oh,
Oh.
do-do-do.
Yeah. Exactly.
Get good at burning. Get good at burning.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, like Christa, that's you're pretty lucky. In that
I'm
regard.
very. I am aware that I am very lucky in my setup. I've had a few tables that I've played at that have been rough, but even like I ran a game, a couple of one shots at Cap City Con, for random players that signed up to come play a couple of modules of Pathfinder, and they were all awesome. Everybody that played had so much fun and were so cool. So I have been very
That's
lucky.
super lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I used to run stuff like for clubs on campus and stuff, like you'd never know what was going to come in the door, and a lot of, because my games were always closed invite, right? Like I'd have people who were messaging me be like, hey, I'm bringing this character tonight, like to like a live action game.
Yeah.
So like a full like parlor LARP. They'd be like, oh, I'm going to play this character tonight. I'm like, I'm not even telling you where we're meeting. I don't know you.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not going to let you come and throw a wrench into like episode 58 of my 70-part game.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're huge nerds, everybody, if you couldn't tell. All right, so anything else about chapter 3 that we should suggest? Read the book really closely. Don't listen to me for anything involving maps. My favorite part of this that I ran personally, though, was be aware that there are some places in Loomlurch where it can get kind of like chunky, and that it can be quite a slog. By the way, I just want to say that real quick as something that I thought about for game, that it can turn into a bit of a dungeon and like a bit of a huge fight with like about 20 or 30 combatants against you. So allow your NPCs to be dumb is a great way to do it, because I'm assuming Tin Men aren't that smart. They literally have a brain full of rocks. But my favorite...
Yes, getting to intimidate them with win instead of having to fight them was...
That's great. So the balloon ride from hither to thither was probably one of my favorite parts, and that involves using a technique that I don't see very often in tabletop games. I use it frequently, but I haven't seen many other people use it, in my experience as a player at least, and that's flashbacks. It is a great way to go into the character's backstory, and it's why I generally ask for bullet points rather than fully fleshed out backstories. Bullet points are more authentic. And they allow you to go back and re-role play those scenes. So for example, like the scene with Isaac and his family, like that is it's a better element if I'm like, okay, you had a falling out with your father. Okay, cool. I don't need to know more than that. Nobody does. And I guarantee you, in a writer's room, like for a real production, you have a coin toss of whether or not it's anything besides daddy issues on a card on the wall. Because nobody cares. We're not dealing with that yet. You might get into it more closely in like the series Bible or the character thing, but for the beginning, when we're spitballing this, if it's not on scene, it doesn't matter. We just need the implication of it, right? So with that, it's way more impactful to be like, oh yes, as you sleep, we cut back to this scene and we learn about this, and we actually role play it out in the moment. Give inspiration for it if you're using inspiration at the table. The more your player leans into it, the more your player leans into failing or tragedy or things like that. And flashbacks can be a great way to establish things in the narrative that you need to have happen. But the best example of this that I can give for this channel is that all of you should go watch 26 episodes of The Reign of Emrys, which is a homebrew setting game that is complete now. It's a 26 episode run. Fantastic. will take you about as long as it's taken you to watch this much Witchlight. Go watch that, because I use it to set up things that I hadn't realized I wanted to include in the story, but did not include early enough due to, like, I didn't know where the players were going. Player agency will screw everything up. So I was like, oh, well, this is actually going to be a major story element, because this is actually how I kind of want the story to go. But I messed up, and I didn't introduce this from the beginning because I didn't think of it until this week. That happens. Sometimes you have to retcon things into the narrative. Flashbacks allow you to do that without the players ever realizing it wasn't meant to be in the story from the start.
Also, the
Supernatural,
players,
and you'll understand that that's what everybody does.
God, don't watch Supernatural.
also it helps the players. I know, like, I have an idea of my character, but I find after a few sessions, when I actually get into the meat of who they are, that when a flashback happens, it's like, okay, it's been a few weeks. I now know things about my character's backstory that I didn't necessarily have crystallized before. So I think it's a great opportunity as well for your players to get a chance after they've had a bit of thought about their characters, instead of writing the 20-page backstory and having to think about that. It's like, okay, I have bullet points, so I know what I kind of think my character is, but also when the flashbacks happen, I found it was a great time to let other parts of the character that I had discovered along the way as well go into the narrative as well, where it's like, okay, I know a bit more about Ivy and how she is, so I know what to kind of sprinkle in and how she would actually be now as a child, instead of trying to think when making the character up. It's like, how is she as a child? Don't have the time necessarily to think about that right now.
Writing backstories is literal hell for me.
And it gets,
And it tends to also be very limiting.
Yeah.
Because you've pinned yourself down, and now maybe you're trying to play that character and you just can't do it. Because you don't have any flexibility, because you've created it all already, and now you have to play who that is. You're not discovering who that is. I find backstory stuff absolutely hellish. I do it as we play, for the most part.
Yeah.
Like,
So
I knew
I
very
require
little
you
about
give me bullets, basically, on things.
Yeah. Very, very rough bullets. I'm happy to try and figure out, like, parent names and stuff like that. But even then, like, honestly, with, like, Rain of Memories, I'm really glad that you kept reminding me that was my brother or that was my dad's name. I don't freaking well remember. Like, I don't know.
You're also in, like,
them
4
yet.
games, so... And that's the other thing about that. Like, I run enough games that if you give me a full backstory, I'm not going to read it. I don't have time. Like, if I can't read for pleasure, I'm not going to read for the, like, it's rough.
And I think it's way easier to figure out how your character would have been in the moment when you're not the person playing both your character and your father and your brother and your mother at the same time and trying to figure out how those dynamics are going to go. But if you're going back and forth with your DM, kind of figuring out their personalities and being like, yeah, oh yeah, this is how it went. Yeah, this is what happened. Like, and then I totally stormed out of the room and we never spoke again, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Having somebody to play off of to create those feelings and those stories.
You can also bring other players into flashback scenes. So you could say, for example, if Caitlan had a fight with her character's dad, the other players could either, like, maybe the DM doesn't want to play the dad. It's like, does anybody feel like playing this father? And then you ask Caitlan for a touchstone. Like, what's he like? Well, he's kind of like J.K. Simmons in Whiplash. Like, oh, I want to play that, actually. I'm sorry.
Just kidding.
Is it on tempo? Is it on tempo? It's on my tempo, right?
That's always my biggest advice for people. If
Play
you're
J.K. Simmons.
If you're running a campaign is play J.K. Simmons. Always everybody play J. Just all J.K. Simmons. Oops, all J.K. Simmons.
Oops, all.
If you ever, damn it,
Sounds
no.
like an extra life game.
Exactly. He's right. I saw him writing it down immediately. I knew it. I was my biggest advice for anybody that, like, runs a city game. If you're running a place where your party is getting broken up a lot, let your other players play NPCs. The best game I ever played was like a 2-year campaign where we would just, like, you were in a restaurant and someone would be like, oh, I'm the chef, and just say some bullshit. You don't have to be integral to the scene. You just get to have fun and shoot some dumb words out, right? And so as long as they're not like a named NPC, you just pick it up. I played a bimbo that ran the desk of a lawyer's office that was actually the Thieves Guild, and she didn't know. And it was the best character I've played in my entire life, and it was a offhand NPC that was just so much fun, and it gives your players something to do when you're separated. and builds your world out a lot more, because that way your DM doesn't have to come up with 1,000 NPCs to make your world feel full.
Yeah, really, because like, and it's fantastic. I also think that touchstones are a really fantastic way to do shorthand, by the way, for your DM. Like, give your DM touchstones, like characters from movies or something like that, to help them play who you want, because there's nothing. It kind of sucks when you have this like huge backstory for your character figured out, and then you give the DM to play, and they play your NPCs wrong. And that's not true. They're not playing them wrong. They're playing their interpretation. But you can help make that interpretation closer to your interpretation by providing touchstones. And that's been a learning process for me over the years. But flashbacks are fantastic because they allow you to establish mood and tone, but they also allow you, as Rob was saying, to discover things about your character. And they can give you some of the most satisfying things possible. They can allow you to completely reinterpret the way your character has acted about certain things. Where you're like, oh, he's really closed off. Oh, that happened to him. I would have been too. I haven't been quiet. I've just been traumatized. There we go. Because everybody's always evolving and changing.
And having those scenes, especially the way you did them in Reign of Emeries, really it really gave a lot of flavor to the characters, because you were coming up with a story and basically narrating it to us with a little bit of input from us on some key parts. But we weren't trying to build it ourselves. Like, it was coming from somebody who was very professionally good at storytelling.
Thank you.
Who had basically written short stories for us that drew out the world, drew out our backstory, made these characters so much realer, I think.
The absolute best moment is a spoiler, and it's your character. It was the dance. The dance was the best flashback moment ever, because it was
it was so lucky.
God, nobody's gonna go watch it. You guys should all go watch the game. But there's this moment where two characters meet on a dance floor, and it's like there's an implied romance between the two of them 5 years in the future, in the present timeline. And we roll to see how their dance goes, and we both nat 20. And just the game explodes for like 5 minutes.
We basically have the Cinderella dance scene from the Disney movie.
It was just the coolest moment. Yes,
so
Robin.
Good.
Bringing back the NPC thing. That was my one kind of thorn for the campaign, was because you had Caitlan and I both come into that, but you didn't have my NPC that I played interact at all, so I was there actually not NPCing at all. I was like, you tried to bring us in, but then you just interacted with Caitlin's NPC, so my person was just kind of like, I didn't do anything for that scene. I was like, why did you ask me? I didn't do anything. That was my one like bad thing about that.
Okay, can you explain what the hell a thorn is?
Sorry.
Okay, so NADPOD does this thing on their short rest where they say roses and thorns for the episode. So the blooms, the good things, and the thorns, the things that kind of like pricks they wish they would have done better or different.
You call me a prick?
No.
Wow.
I'm saying it was a thorn.
Yeah. Rotating Heroes does the same thing, except they do doggy treats and PCFOCs, which are Pringles cans full of coins.
That's awful.
Wow.
So that's okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, it's not 100% when you bring in other players.
Oh, I know. I was just saying, going back into the talk about bringing in your NPCs, and then that scene is like, that was the one time where that happened for the flashback, and it didn't work.
All right. Well, nobody bats 1,000. Nobody bats 1,000.
I know. Hey,
You just gotta be obnoxious,
best.
and you just gotta be like me and just talk.
I know. I should. But
You could have been
scene.
louder then. You could have been louder.
Oh, you were doing the romance thing. I was not interrupting this scene.
You could have just been in the side and been like, "It's beautiful, ain't it?"
Oh yeah, and then the super awkward thing with my NPC and lead-in.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, that's right, because you were with Leiden, and I was supposed to be with
Leiden.
Christine, but then the guy was there, so I was like,
Whooped in. So now you're
what
like,
am I doing here? I should have just like gone
not
off
in the other arm. Oh, that too.
Yeah.
And honestly, that kind of plays into the way that like I think one of the things people like about Dork Tales is the fact that like we understand when to be quiet, and we understand that like there has been a million
Maybe
times
you do.
in which there's been a million times in which like that I've been like, oh, I have a thing I want to say here, and I'll go, but someone else is talking, but then someone else has started talking, and I'll go, but someone else has started talking, and then we leave the scene, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, yeah, that's fine. Let's move on. Like,
Dork Pod will not have that. Dork Pod will be just everyone talking over each other constantly.
Oh, good.
It's gonna be great.
Well, that
I'm like that in everything.
happens with Witchlight, because I kind of like, Wynn is a very easy character to never shut up. So I'm trying very carefully to make sure that while if I sit quiet for too long, I will wait until there's a good moment where I can interject something stupid.
Fair
A
enough.
comment on something by Wynn, even if it's just a, I don't understand, just in the background. But
And that, I mean, that
I'm
was
trying
something
very
at
hard
the
to
very
not.
at the very beginning of this campaign, like even off screen, I told everyone, like, hey, if I'm ever talking too much, because Isaac is a fucking talker, please tell me, because Christa does not think that they have any right to talk over anybody, but Isaac certainly does. But Christa couldn't let themselves do that. So I've been trying to at least get a word in and say things that he would, but at the same time I don't want to dominate the screen.
Well, and with like Thither, because like it's more focus was for Caitlin's character,
Yeah.
was trying to make sure that I didn't do too much in certain scenes because I wanted your character to be cool. It's Luthienne's time.
Thank you. Thank you.
So it's like, especially since I think you tend to come from work a lot, so you're really, really tired.
Sometimes, yeah. I'm just really tired in general. But also,
Which
like
I think you
Kelly
have a
was
lot more
saying,
intensive job than I do. Not that I don't get tired from mine too, but so I know like sometimes I think you're a bit quiet from being tired or something like that. So it's just like,
yeah,
okay,
it's partially that.
shut up for a little bit to let Caitlan talk.
Well, spoilers. She'll probably be a bit louder and a bit, more into things. Not that she's not. I wouldn't say less traumatized, but she's working through her shit now,
Right.
rather than like focused on this one goal. And to hell with everything else. I just need this one goal. So, yeah,
Nice.
I'm ready. I'm ready for it.
But it's weird going from like Malia on Wednesdays, who just doesn't really talk much at all because she thinks everybody's being stupid, to Wynn, who just is like, well, I'm gonna open the door. And then you guys keep talking, Wynn just goes and opens the door.
I absolutely
You need
100%.
chaos.
I kind of imagined before we started this campaign, I was thinking of Isaac as this guy that's like, okay, he's constantly, we'll be walking down a trail and he'll be talking and telling a story and doing whatever and blah, blah, blah. And then Wynn showed up. And it was like, oh no, we're walking down a trail and Wynn is the one that's telling stories and wandering along and and which is delightful. It is so good. And I imagine Isaac going,
They're gonna
Well,
get
it's funny
married.
because that was exactly the reverse of what we were gonna do. Because you had pitched Isaac as somebody who would come up with stupid plans that don't work
yes.
and were bad
Yeah.
ideas, but you
Yeah.
would state them very decisively. And we had
So
agreed
intense.
that you were going to do that. And then Wynn was going to be like, oh yeah, that sounds like a great idea.
Yeah.
And Luthienne was gonna be like, that sounds like a shitty ass idea.
Yeah.
If that's what you mean.
The whole thing was going to be that if then somebody else stated an opinion decidedly, Wynn would turn and go, oh yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But that didn't happen quite as much. Wynn has been much more stated in her opinions.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny how first plans change.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, first ideas for characters always change. Like,
Yeah.
they're never who I imagine before I start playing them, and then they develop into an actual character.
It's almost like real life.
Well, I mean, I had so much trouble getting Wynn's. Like, I want to give Wynn an accent, and I kind of had found, okay, I like the non-rhotic, but I was having so much trouble with it until I got to tried the line. Well, hi there, I'm Gwendolwynne Shafra. You can call me Wynn, and that it just fell into place, and then all of a sudden I can just do it.
All right.
But before
so,
that line, it just nope.
I mean, going around and finding your characters is important. So, so with this, do your best. Thither is a lot of fun. Take your time. go through as much of it, so the tree thing, maybe cut back one tree thing, in my opinion. Be wary of what to do with the unicorn horn, because that will cause you problems if you are not ready to make a decision on that when it happens. But beyond all, if you need a minute to take a step back and regroup, remember that there is nothing wrong with saying, all right, let's take a 5-minute break. I just want to review my notes so that I get this scene exactly right. Or this next room is kind of tricky. Give me just a sec to review my notes because there's something special coming up and I want to make sure that I don't forget it. So let's go put on some coffee and I'm going to take this book into the bathroom. Or something like that. Like there's no shame in asking for 5-10 minutes to review your notes. Or if you're getting toward the end of the night saying, all right, I think we're going to call a game here so that I have a little more time next session with this room. Because I think that it would be better suited if we did that. Yeah. So is there any last thing? Is it better? Okay, so we have one last question that's coming in here from Dredge and Wolf. And that's someone, so they played in first edition to 3.5 and then took a big break and are back and want to run a campaign. Is it better to get to know the new rules as a player or straight in as a DM? It depends on, do you learn?
It's not too hard.
It's really not that hard. In fact, you're throwing a lot of rules out. Do you learn from experience or do you learn from reading?
Yeah.
Because
also you can get the updated Dungeon Master screens, of course, which have like a lot of the rules compressed into that area to help you. So if you feel like your group is relaxed enough to be willing to be happy for you to be learning while playing with them and not stressing you out, but giving you the time in which to quickly like try and figure out how that works to learn together.
I learned better through osmosis personally. So by just like, I actually didn't read the book very closely until like a year into running Dork Tales. So that's obvious in early Shards and Urn. That's Pathfinder you're playing, Kelly. I think honestly,
I think a lot of the rules are close enough.
It's honestly, they just boil it down. They get rid of a bunch of skills. They get rid of skill points. They boil a lot of it down, make it a lot easier. In my experience with people who are coming from previous editions, you're going to be one of two people. You're either going to be someone who goes, oh, wow, this is a much more streamlined way to play, or you're going to be cranky about it. And they're only the two flavors. When editions change, there's nobody who's like, it's okay. No, it's like, it's either like, yeah, which is like, I was very much, I don't know about this. And then I played a couple games and was like, oh my God, I hate skill points so much. This is great.
Oh, see, I miss skill points.
You know, yeah, I bet you miss synergy bonuses in Pathfinder too.
I won an argument about synergy bonuses by doing a backflip. I will fight for synergy bonuses for the rest of my goddamn life. So
I was gonna say Riggs also brings a point up. This is how I learned how to play D&D. A lot of the rules, like some of the basic rules, was I learned it through osmosis of listening to podcasts and like watching, like, you know, if you like to watch people on Twitch and stuff. But I learned a lot of the base rules, like advantage, disadvantage. Like I started playing in like
the one thing I was really sad about
listening
was barbarians.
Yeah,
I liked the
really
1.5 times thing that you got to add to stuff as a barbarian in Pathfinder. You don't get that in D&D 5e.
I will recommend
powerful.
The two things I would recommend for learning if you're going to watch something. The first season of Dimension 20 is really good because they have a player who has never played before and a number of players that are unfamiliar. So
was that Napod?
No, that's Dork. That's a Dimension 20. So that's College Humors with Brendan Lee Mulligan. And then the Adventure Zone. The very first episode, none of them had played. Even Griffin, who was running, had played like twice. And so they were all learning the rules together for the first arc. So
or watch Dork Tales.
Absolutely. Oh, I'm just saying we jump into it. Like this is what I'm saying. Is we just kind of play. Yeah, I knew you were. But
cool.
Yeah, anyway, I would say if you're kind of like, I want to know more rules rather than have to watch and learn by osmosis, if you want to see people actively telling you the rules, it's good. or like we've had a couple of campaigns with people that are new to 5e, and you're gonna hear those rules come up a lot. So
don't listen to Dungeons and Daddies for rules because they don't play D&D.
They do not.
They say they do, but they do not play D&D.
That's fine. But
it's a good podcast that's fun to listen to, but not Dungeons and Dragons if you want to learn the rules.
That's fair. Krista, should we have a game at Dork Tales Expo that's just someone running an episode of D&D for all noobs who have never played D&D before? Can we find people?
Fun. I think so.
Can we?
I think I can find people, yeah.
I mean, that's also a bit, like, the thing is, it's for stream, though. People might be, we could try, but it might be a bit nerve-wracking to, like, never play it and go on stream, and people don't like to make a fool or sound like an idiot kind of thing.
I think we can figure it out.
We take really experienced people who go into it with the concept of explaining everything they do clearly of, okay, I'm going to roll to attack with my sword, which is blah, and I add this and this to my roll.
Yeah.
That might be more fun, especially if you do do stupid stuff with it. Well, I spank him with my sword. Well, to spank him, you need to make a base attack bonus roll. And what you do is you would add your proficiency to your strength because you're using your strength to swing your sword.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
It's a light sword. Oh, then you can use your dexterity, or because it has this quality.
So the how to D&D game.
That would be fun.
Yeah, that might be a fun panel.
How to D&D. How to D&D.
Yeah.
And
I
everybody
think that'd
plays
be a
like
lot
a
of
base class, nothing fancy from the extra books.
Yeah.
Or anything
Yeah,
like
just
that. Like, just use the
PHB.
PHB.
Yeah, first level.
That could be really fun.
I think
First
that'd be
level,
rad.
get killed by house cats at the very end. They just
Yes.
all... Yeah. 'cause
Oh,
that's the way it is.
yes. Oh, my God.
Well, and heck, if we did that, we could even have a precursor where we build on stream and just clearly lay out, like, at least one person builds.
Yeah, must start in a tavern.
Yeah.
A tavern in a cavern.
Absolutely. Well, of course.
Everybody takes pickle damage. Everybody takes
Someone's
custard damage.
proficient in spank.
Proficiency in spank.
Why did custard
I mean,
damage come?
Dungeon Masters, come on. They're proficient in spank.
All right, good night, everybody.
Oh, and on that note,
On that note,
Hi, I'm
actually, I think that is a good place. So, folks, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode
You're welcome.
of Wild Beyond the Witchlight. I hope that you took some information from this for running it yourself. Take it slow. Have fun with it. This is a damn good chapter. And it's my favorite so far. The first one, though. The first or third are probably my favorite. We still got 2 more to go through, plus the epilogues. And I hope that you are going to have fun with it. And remember, this is a storytelling experience. So go off script. Just, if you add stuff, like a red hag that forces prophecies on characters, write it down and be consistent. Consistency is key. You might think you're being mysterious by pulling a Lost, but remember, even J.J. Abrams didn't know what the hell he was doing. Always know what's in your mystery box. But yeah, I think that's it for me. Let's go around a circle, say who we are, what we did, and call it here. Let's start with Christine again. We'll go in a big circle.
All right, I'm Christine. You can find me as Lady Liliana on Twitch. And in this game, I play Gwendolwynne Shafra, our human monk.
Nice. Christa.
Hi, I'm Christa. You can find me on Twitch or mainly on TikTok as ChahistAFX. I also run our Dork Tales TikTok, so come check us out over there. It's lots of fun. We're doing dumb stuff, and it's wonderful. And I play Isaac Ronaldi of the Runigling, the Leonin rogue.
Nice. Caitlan.
hello, I'm Caitlan. I am Petite Medic, wherever Petite Medics are sold, which is Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, Facebook. Yeah, I knew I missed something there. Which one is it? And today I usually play Luthienne Aeradel, our high elf gunslinger.
Nice. Robin.
Hello. Or I guess not hello.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye. I am Robin. Also second-gen gamer in the chat. And usually I am playing Sarcyra Novis, our tiefling clockwork sorcerer. Yeah, it's look forward to next week where I get to be purple again.
It's gonna be great. And as always, I'm your Dungeon Master Kelly. thank you for coming and watching Wild Beyond the Witchlight. We're here all week. Try the veal. If you want to see other stuff that we're doing, be sure to come back tomorrow night for the episode 1 of Call of the Netherdeep. It's going to be amazing. I have been working on the soundtrack and like my notes all day. You're going to have a lot of fun with it. And if you like what we do with Witchlight, you're going to love what we do over there too, I promise. On Wednesday, join us at 11 a.m. for Who D and Done It Part 2, 11 a.m. Pacific. And then on Thursday and Friday is going to be Lasers and Feelings with Christa. Saturday is going to be my game of Animal Adventures. And Sunday is Deadlands, unless I pass out from all the gaming beforehand and take a day off, which I probably won't. So we'll see you next Monday for Wild Beyond the Witchlight. And folks, if you're listening on podcast, expect Call of the Netherdeep to end up on podcast as well. It'll be coming your way. I haven't decided the release day for that, but it will be sometime probably like a Monday or the following Tuesday every week, so that it doesn't bunch up too much. Yeah, I hope that you enjoyed this episode and that you learned some stuff. Yeah, that's me. So good night, everybody. We love you very much. We'll see you in Yawn. Good night, folks.
Hot evil.